From the depth of the vault, this is Eerie's Vault Live. It's your number one stream for the uncanny, the weird, and the unexplained. Good evening, everybody. Or in fact, good morning or good afternoon, wherever in the vast, multi-celled universe you may be, and welcome to the show. This is Eerie's Vault Live, and I am your host, Eerie. We're going to open up the phone lines, of course we are, soon. So if you do want to be in the show, I'll tell you how to do that a little bit later on. But first, as always, we're going to begin with a shout out to those wonderful patrons. I feel like writing you guys a theme tune, actually. We've got Baroque Lobster, Buster Piles, Todd Van Voris, Steadbot, Farson's Finest, John Douglas, Greg Russell, Gaynor Smith, E.J. Osborne, Emu Cat, Ramona Craighill, Ian Lewis, Pamela Piffer, Andrew Dewey, Keith Say, Pill Collins, Rudolph Hooker, Ryan, John Diver, Mr. E, Craig McClellan, Zach T, Adam Mitchell, Sawboss, Gregory, Amanda McNeil, Natalie Leach, Catman, Chris Slee, Heather, Maund Jones, Melv, Aaron Osborne, Ginger Ninja, Ben Hale, Vincent Hegeland, Iron Bug, Paul Redruth, Baby with a Laser, Bizjitish 143, Jerry Shelton, Brian Henderson, Stu Graham, David Morris, Darren Jump, Henry, Louise Matthews, Johnny A, Harry Webb 46, John Nelson, and Matt T. Now bear with me, because there is a page 2 of this, and that is Paul L. Paul, as a member that's recently joined, I think, welcome one and all patrons, lovely old patrons, to the live stream. Gosh, has it flown or has it been a long time? What are we thinking? I feel like it's flown, personally. Feel like it's flown, but do you know it is really good when that theme tune kicks in and I psych myself up to say, from the depths of the vault, this is Eerie's Vault Live. There's nothing quite like that moment, in my view. Who have we got in the chat? We've got Darren Jump, who says, blimey, I'm first. You don't hear blimey very often, do you? Welcome, Darren, to the show. David Owens, Eerie's Vault crew assemble, yes indeed, and welcome, David. Who else do we have here? We've got Purple Pipkin, hello there. James Glass, hello and welcome, James. Mr. Buster Piles, welcome to the show, sir. Ferrari Fienzo, good evening, folks, and good evening to you, and welcome. Hope you enjoy your stay. Stephen Truthsaker, hello, Stephen, welcome to the show. Cat's Life, hello, Cat's Life, welcome once again. Theme Queen UK, hello there, Theme Queen UK, welcome to the show. Liz, hi Liz, yes, good evening to you. Sheppy, good evening, Sheppy, welcome. WM Steadbot, hello there, a very good evening to you too, sir. Tony Worrell, hello Tony, welcome to the show. Who else have we have here? Isal Magyari, hello there. Nice, caught beginning of the live show, you did. Let's hope you catch the end too. Let's hope it's that interesting for you. Who else do we have here? Mila 10 after 10. Hi all, I'm glad to be here. Hello there. You're about an hour early, aren't you? If it's 10 after 10. Ha ha ha. Did I tell you I was funny? I don't think I did I? No, James Rogers. Hello, James. Welcome. Dingley Dell. Hello, Dingley Dell. Welcome to the show. Goodness me, we've got a healthy number of people so far, haven't we? Yeah, Alison. Hello, Alison. Love and Unity. Welcome to the show. Yes, it's been 2 weeks. Can you believe it? It has already been 2 whole weeks. I've got a good video coming up for you on Tuesday. It's about... What's it about? I've forgotten what it's about. It's about non-human humanoid encounters in the UK. As you know, I try to find UK-centric stuff, and my goodness, there are some corkers in this one on Tuesday, let me tell you. Some that, well, you're going to have to just watch it to see. But yes, I love finding things that I never heard of before. And I realize sometimes people have heard of them, but I haven't, you know. So I love to just tell you about them, really. That's one of the most exciting things about this channel. We've got Blazing. Hello, Blazing. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now then, I have an email to get us started. We'll be switching the phone lines on just a little while. They're not active as yet. We'll switch those on a little later. So if you are the person who wants to chat about enigmatic art, if you've reached home from work yet, just bear with a short while because we'll switch the phones on probably just after 9:30. That tends to be how we go. I have an email to begin the show with when we get to stories. However, let's look at some, eerie news. That's right. So, an interesting thing here from The Independent. Headline is, and this is from the 18th of January, the Bank of England must plan for a financial crisis triggered by aliens, says the former policy expert. So get this. The UK must plan for a financial crisis that would be triggered if the US government announces that aliens exist, a former Bank of England expert has said. Helen McCaw, who served as a senior analyst in financial security at the UK's central bank, has written to Andrew Bailey, the Bank of England's governor, urging him to set out contingencies in case the White House ever confirms the existence of alien life. Miss McCaw, who worked for the Bank of England for 10 years until 2012, said politicians and bankers can no longer afford to dismiss talk of alien life, and warned a declaration of this nature could trigger bank collapses. She reportedly said, the United States government appears to be partway through a multi-year process to declassify and disclose information on the existence of a technologically advanced, non-human intelligence responsible for unidentified anomalous phenomena. If the UAP proves to be of a non-human origin, we may have to acknowledge the existence of a power or intelligence greater than any government and with potentially unknown intentions. Her warning comes as senior American officials have recently indicated their belief in the possibility of alien life. In a recent documentary, The Age of Disclosure, 34 U.S. government insiders, including those from the military and intelligence community officials, were spoken to about an 80-year-old global cover-up of non-human intelligent life and a secret war among major nations to reverse engineer advanced technology of non-human origin, according to the film's description. The director, Dan Farrar, spoke with sources including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, New York Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper to discuss the government's work with UAPs, the formal term for UFOs. That's what this article says. There's a little more to it than that, isn't there? Marco Rubio told the documentary maker that we have had repeated instances of something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities, and it is not ours. Ms. McCaw said UAP disclosure is likely to induce ontological shock and provoke psychological responses with material consequences. There might be extreme price volatility in financial markets due to catastrophizing and euphoria, and a collapse in confidence if market participants feel uncertain on how to price assets using any of the familiar methods. The former Bank of England worker explained there might be a rush toward assets such as gold or other precious metals and government bonds, which are perceived as safe. Alternatively, she said, precious metals might well lose their status as perceived safe assets if people speculate that new spacefaring technologies will soon increase the supply of those precious metals. What do we think to that one then? Economic, socioeconomic, ontological consequences of disclosure, and this is why the phrase catastrophic disclosure is bandied around, isn't it? Because there are two options, are there not? Assuming, as we mostly do here on Eerie's Vault, that there is something to disclose, then there are two options. It is either a controlled disclosure or it is a catastrophic one, in which essentially the intelligence shows itself before we are officially told anything about it, you know. I thought that was interesting, to say the least, but not half as interesting as Vagina, the Brazilian Roswell, as it is called. I have been binge-watching stuff about this. Good Lord, I'd love to get James Fox on this show. I'm going to invite him. Why not? People can only say no, can't they? But here, this is from thewellnews.com. At about 3:30 on the afternoon of January the 20th, 1996, several residents of Varginha, Brazil, a municipality of some 100,000 people at the time, saw something fall out of the sky. Some thought it was a weather balloon. Others believed it was an experimental aircraft, likely built by a local amateur flying club. Everyone, however, agreed that the object was cigar-shaped and that it was travelling at a high speed when it suddenly faltered and abruptly changed direction and headed toward the ground. A short time later, 3 young women, 2 of them school teachers now, encountered what they later said was a strange creature, crouched against a wall in a courtyard. At the time, they were completely unaware of the object that had supposedly crashed nearby. 30 years later, all of these women say that what they saw both terrified them and left them with conflicting emotions. This creature was shaped like a man, though each of his hands had only 3 fingers. One of his feet was also exposed, and it, too, had only 3 digits. And on the last show, we were talking about the tridactyls, were we not, from Peru? How very, very, what's the word? Synchronous that is. It's what a synchronicity that is. The most vivid thing about the creature was its brown, oily skin and his bright red eyes, which registered his own terror and appeared to plead for their assistance. They fled. Shortly after, the military arrived and sealed the area. People were told to keep quiet and go away. Some said they were later questioned by mysterious MIBs. The creature was whisked away, transferred between a series of locations, and finally, the story goes, was apparently handed over to representatives of the US government, never to be seen again. This incident is at the heart of a new documentary, Moment of Contact, New Revelations of Alien Encounters, by filmmaker James Fox, a long-time and, frankly, very impressive investigator of what are now known as unidentified anomalous phenomena. It was also the subject of an extended news conference hosted by Fox on Tuesday at the National Press Club in Washington. Among the speakers was Dr. Italo Venturelli, a neurosurgeon who has said he personally came into contact with this living extraterrestrial non-human entity. In the documentary, actually, he clearly has emotional problem with what he saw, and he refers to the being as angelic. He refers to it as an angel. Carlos de Souza, a former businessman and geography teacher, was the chap who was the first witness. De Souza, the Brazilian, has long been reluctant to discuss his experience, and he effectively vanished from life for 26 years after giving one brief statement to a UFO researcher in the 90s. De Souza is very serious, and he said that the events are like a scene of a movie that plays in his head all the time. He saw this thing crash. He assumed it was a blimp or something. He could tell it was in trouble, and then it began to smoke and it hit the ground. Okay. Now, de Souza's first thought was, there will be a pilot on board that thing. I must rush to his aid. So he jumped in his car, followed the trajectory towards the crash site, hoping he'd be able to help. He did in fact make it there, and he found half of the craft largely intact. It had come to rest against a tree, but there were remnants and other bits of it scattered everywhere. There was a foul odour, like ammonia with rotten eggs, he said. He picked up a piece of lightweight metal, and it crumbled in his hand. He let go, and it instantly resumed its shape. And at that moment, multiple army vehicles arrived at the scene. They arrived very promptly. Then he was hit in the chest with one of the rifles, and he was forced to leave the area. He protested and said no people in that craft need help. And with that, the soldier aimed the gun at his head and said, I am not requesting that you leave. It is an order. Leave, or I shall shoot you. This case has really got me. It got me the first time I heard about it. And I'm going to do a lot more binging, actually. A lot more binging about it. And the tridactyl thing is an incredible coincidence, I think. The description of the creature, there are images of it. I haven't got the image ready, unfortunately, but if you Google this Vagina creature, you'll come across a crouched brown figure with red eyes. There's just something about it that looks exactly like Dale Gribble from King of the Hill. I don't know what it is. I'll put a comparison up on the chat later on the, community board or something like that. It's just a little whimsy of mine. But yes, this case, I really am into it, actually. And there is a part of this, it's a sprawling documentary, and it's a fascinating tale. The witnesses are so just seemingly genuine. But the one part is there was a soldier who grabbed the creature bodily, picked it up or escorted it somewhere. And in the, it's not really the melee, really, that action of picking the creature up, the creature has apparently scratched this chap, not attacked him, but has just accidentally scratched him under his arm. And the wound that resulted had bacteria on it that is said to be from this alien creature's nail, and it is some sort of super bacteria that was resistant to every single treatment they threw at it, and eventually killed the chap because they couldn't heal him. There are so many bits to the story that I just love. So tonight, if you want to call, let's talk Virginia. Let's talk about that most definitely, because I am fascinated by it. If you don't know anything about it, Google it and then speak to me about it. I really want to have a chat about that one. Really, I do. Yes, what a fascinating case. Absolutely wonderful. The bacterium rapidly spread, yes. A pathologist named Dr. Shwam Jamini analysed tissue samples taken from the young man without knowing anything about the supposed alien encounter and concluded that the aggressiveness suggested extraterrestrial origin. This soldier was called Sherez, or Sherezi. I think that's right, Shirazi. The family have since suggested that the military pressed them to bury his body right away. Fox said on Tuesday that a legal effort is now underway to exhume the body so further tests can be performed. It's an incredible, incredible story. And I really have to applaud James Fox's tenacity and his ability to put all this together, you know, and to stick with it. I mean, my God, going around Brazil, knocking on doors in the middle of nowhere, asking to speak to, there's one chap he asks to speak to, I think it may be the other military officer, Mr. Lopes, who essentially says, if you don't leave my property, don't ever come back, I'm going to shoot all of you right now. And he brandishes a gun through the window. It's an amazing story. And from coast to coast, a former Marine reports Bigfoot encounter at a restricted military base. So a former Marine has come forward with a remarkable account of encountering a suspected Sasquatch in a restricted military base. You know Bigfoot's my thing, don't you? The compelling incident, revealed in a recent report to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, that's the BRFO, occurred in the summer of 2005 in Quantico, Virginia, as witness Andrew Byrd participated in field training exercises at a mock urban environment closed to the public. One evening, he and 2 other Marines were ordered to exit the location and travel through the woods to a pickup vehicle approximately 500 to 700 meters away. While making the normally routine trek, the trio stumbled upon something that still mystifies them to this day. They heard a loud cracking sound and turned their flashlights towards the area to see what caused the commotion. To their consternation, the Marines observed 2 trees next to each other bending toward one another. Looking up to see what was responsible for the weird display, they spotted a large, hairy creature with its back facing them, seemingly pulling the 2 trees together. Marvelling at the mysterious interloper, what a significant strength, really, that it must have had to pull off such a feat, Byrd described the figure as being around 8 feet tall with a large body covered in brown or reddish-brown hair. Chillingly, the witness noted that its proportions and movement did not resemble a human. I am well into Bigfoot, as you know. I love it. From a Twisted Mind says the 3 girls witnessed... Oh, yes, this is the alien. Yes, that's right. And good Lord. Yes, the oily skin of the alien. Gosh, I'd love to get James Fox on here to talk to us. Wouldn't that be a thing? Wouldn't that be marvellous? I shall try and invite the chap. I am small fry, of course, in the larger scheme of things, so one never knows, does one? But yes, Bigfoot, aliens, all kinds of things. Kicking off on Eerie's Vault. What else have we got in here today? I've been tagged. Eerie's Vault, have you heard of the Aurora crash? Do you know, I cannot bring that to mind at the moment. Aurora crash, is that... Now, I'm either going to show ignorance here or forgetfulness. Is the Aurora crash something to do with the Sheffield incident? Is that what it... You'll have to tell me what it is. You need to jog my memory, I think. The Aurora crash. Not sure. Ha! Not to us, you're not. Thank you very much. Yes, not to us, of course. The small fry thing was just a gag, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Now then, let's jump to this email that I've been sitting on for a while before I get to the phone lines, etc. And if you're out there, chap who wants to talk about enigmatic art, please don't go away. I'm looking forward to that call. So this is from JB. It's from a couple of weeks ago. Well, about a week, actually. Who says, "My wife and I have lived in several locations over the 50-plus years we have been together, and have several tales of the supernatural relating to some of the premises we have lived in. I will tell you them all eventually, but one such tale follows. East Balthangle, part of the Balthangle community, is a croft turned farmhouse, originally part of the thriving Balthangie community. When way back the area had shops, a cobbler, a farrier, and a blacksmith, a tailor, etc. The area was connected to other settlements by pack horse and cart trails, prior to the planned villages introduced into the late 17th century by local lairds, and in the early 18th century, especially when the railways arrived, after which the busy trading area and the people living in Balthangie dropped back into a remaining predominantly agricultural preoccupation, known mainly for barley, neeps, which is turnips, and potato products. Electricity did not arrive there until the late 1940s, and fast fibre broadband is yet to arrive, apparently. This place was known for its illicit stills surrounding the burgeoning whisky industry, and the hidden underground storage areas at the site are still evidenced today. Whisky was supplied locally and often smuggled to the northern coast for onward distribution down the coastal shipping routes to Edinburgh and beyond, avoiding taxes and the like from the authorities. This story brings us to the date of 1995, when I and my wife, writes JB, moved into this farmhouse, where we have lived to this day. The farmhouse, originally constructed as a croft in the early 1600s, was extended and refurbished in the 50s and more extensively in the 70s for the various growing families that lived there. One day I returned home, driving down the hill towards our house, from which there is a long and clear view of the place, the land, and the horses we kept in the lower field. I steered across to check the horses looked okay, and all was in order before my arrival. This was about 6:30 in the evening on one fine summer's day. Often away for weeks at a time, I was always grateful to arrive at this view, to see the horses, and look forward to being home again with my wife. And on this occasion, as I looked across the land and over to the farm, I saw my wife busy with something at the fence, halfway down the field, just where the spring water rises, which then trickles away down to the headwaters of the river Ethan. She was leaning over the fence, concentrating and working away intently. I looked long and hard and came to the conclusion she was mending the fence, yet again, probably after the horses had damaged it as they were prone to do. As I looked, I thought it strange. My wife, dressed in a full flowing skirt, wearing a headscarf. This certainly was not her usual attire. I turned into our lane, and as the building blocked my view of her and the fence, I pulled into our farmyard, and I took the decision to walk down to the field immediately to see what she was doing, see if I could help. I rounded the steadings, which are the outbuildings, and walked through the gate, and discovered that she wasn't there, and the fence was actually intact. Probably putting the tools away, I thought, so I walked back up to the steadings via the workshop, then the feed room and the chicken huts, but I couldn't see her. So I went into the house, and there she was, in 90s jeans, fleece and T-shirt, busy cooking our evening meal, listening to some music. I asked her what she was doing down at the fence, and why she was dressed in a long skirt and scarf. Thinking me slightly potty, she said she hadn't been out of the house all afternoon, hadn't changed clothes, but was just about to go out and bed the animals and chickens down for the night. By the way, I don't own a long flowing skirt, nor a headscarf, she added quizzically. What are you talking about? We discovered that in our house we would often feel a cold area halfway toward the fireplace and the wall between the sitting room and the kitchen. It was intense. The dogs would get up and stand and stare, and then after a while it would recede. There was never a feeling of malevolence nor mischief, just an icy cold spot you could literally put your hand in to feel and draw out again to the warmth. After some time there, deciding the kitchen layout wasn't quite right, we gutted it, moved the kitchen to where we wanted it, and in doing so we discovered a kitchen range fireplace in what was then the dining room, behind layers of wooden panelling and tiles, etc. More notably, there was a fireplace hidden there by the plasterboard, exactly adjacent, actually, to where we felt this cold spot. In the 1700s, 1800s, domestic workers were known as skivvies, not in any way detrimental, or now, as they were then or now, as they were hard-working, loyal staff who both lived and worked at a farm or other similar places. Seemingly on speaking with some of the local, very elderly residents in the area, the tale passed down was that the skivvy who worked there on cold winter's snowy night left the farm in a blizzard to walk to the shop for provisions. She didn't return as expected, and the menfolk went out to look for her on their return. Sadly, they found her at the top of the lane, completely in the wrong direction to the shop, hypothermic and virtually lifeless. She had become disoriented and had lost her way. They brought her back, later in front of our newly discovered fireplace, but sadly she never regained consciousness, and she passed away. I thought I had seen my wife that day. I hadn't. I had actually seen the skivvy obtaining water from the spring. Thank you, JB, for that one. I very much look forward to more of those. Apologies for being so slack at replying. I am terrible at replying, you guys. I really am. I've logged into Facebook for the first time in a very long time today, and there's several messages for people who must be absolutely fed up of me not answering them. So I'm all I can say is I'm very sorry about all that. Anyway, here's how to take part in the show. To take part in tonight's show, there are a number of options. You can send a message on WhatsApp, giving a brief outline of what it is you want to discuss, and then wait for my call back. Alternatively, for UK residents, you can call direct on 0141 673 3743 to join the call queue and get through to the live show. And for listeners in the US, you can also call on 929 673 3743. That's 929 Mr. Eerie. That's a New York City number. And if you're too shy to call, then you can always email eeriesvault@gmail.com with your story or your theory, whatever it is you want to talk about, and I can read it out for you on air and state. Remember, this is your show, and I am waiting for your call. Strange encounters, theories about the paranormal, questions about some of the cases I've covered on the channel, whatever it is, as long as it's weird, I want to hear it. Call now to be on Eerie's Vault Live. This is Eerie's Vault Live, and I am your host, Leon Eerie, and this is your number one stream for the weird, the strange, and the unexplained. That's right, the weird, the strange, and the unexplained. Do you know, I have a call coming in immediately. Let's see who this is, shall we? Let's flip over to that, and let's answer. Good evening, you are on Eerie's Vault Live. Welcome to the show.
Hey, this is your guest.
Ah, hello, guest. Well done for getting through first. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. You have a great community, and I enjoyed your videos, but now that you do the live, it's become my Friday, afternoon, evening routine.
Wonderful. Now, you would like to speak to us about, what was the term again? Enigmatic art. Is that right?
Yes, which isn't mine. That's the disciplinary term, but seeing it over and over got me thinking.
Okay. Go for it.
Sure. Well, I thought I might just say what anthropology is, in case anybody doesn't know the scope. Everybody knows archaeology, right, which is digging up stuff in the earth or ancient stuff. There's also cultural anthropology. There's forensics or biological anthropology, which you could use to assist the police in the present. There's primatology, studying, primates, our ancestors, human evolution. There's linguistics, language, and there's crossover with stuff like public health, how little decisions, in policy can have big impact, when multiplied across a population.
Of course.
My interest is cultural, but, I wanted to call and talk about ancient art, specifically cave art. The evolution of consciousness is something that I've really become interested in the last couple of years and been studying a lot, is consciousness. I wanted to talk about time, or at least our limited human perception of it. And then I wanted to talk about how all that relates to what people have called aliens, gods, demons, spirits, fairies.
Very good. Yeah, sounds just like our kind of thing. I'm going to pop on screen for everyone the example of art that you sent to me, just so we've got a.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're
anchor.
able to.
Yes.
I'm so glad.
Bear with me. I'm clearly an amateur at this. There we go. Yes. So, apologies, you chaps. There was no sound, but we're back. So, caller, what does my description sound like to you?
Well, I don't think there's a wrong answer, because I'll certainly share what I think. And I've been asking people, and in fact, the first thing I did was show my friends and current students, but this is now slide 1. I'm going to start every course with this and ask people, what do you see,
Yeah.
So, like, with archaeology, the name or what they were thinking or what they meant or what they're trying to say or tell us, or if it's like a practical object, what it was used for, how it was used, right?
Right.
So ultimately, sometimes we can't, and it gets labeled enigmatic art. Or, we're said it's just art for art's sake, decoration for decoration's sake, or it's practice. It was us figuring, representation out or figuring art out. So as I said, that's the disciplinary term. That's not my term, but seeing it over and over again got me thinking. Now, I always try to remind my students over and over that ancient humans weren't as dumb as we think or we have portrayed them, right? There's this idea of like the dumb caveman, the brutish caveman, but they had to be smart for us to be here, right?
Sure.
They had to be smart to survive for us to exist. So it's really quite arrogant and disrespectful to our ancestors to, think or act or write that way. What I sent you, I can tell you, where it's from. It was labeled as a geometric anthropomorph. So I should have said this earlier, anthropology, anthropos is Greek for, man or
of
human.
Course, yeah.
So that art is a geometric anthropomorph, the person, the European who discovered it, rediscovered it. That's what he labeled it. And it's from South Central Siberia, in present-day Russia above Mongolia. There's this beautiful culture called the Deer Stones culture that I would encourage people to look up. They left these, they're funeral monuments. They're someone's grave marker. And in fact, over time, people would move them and reuse them and add their own stuff to them, which is also, I think, a beautiful human thing. But the picture you just looked at is from the culture that preceded that deer stone culture, and you can actually go see that stone in a museum in Russia. Some of my friends said an alien standing behind a podium or a lectern. Um,
Yeah, I can
some
sort of
people
see
have
that.
interpreted yeah. So some people have interpreted it as, like an antelope or a deer, that lives out there, then symbolically sort of, and you can also consider the velvet coming off the antlers. But at this point in my life and career, and one of the things I want to talk about is how my thoughts have changed over the years. I really hope some ancient pastoralist saw that face.
Yeah.
Like, that looks like a happy alien to me. He looks like a friendly fellow. You know what I mean?
It certainly does.
So at this point, I'm willing to believe anything because I don't think ancient people were dumb. They were, in fact, keen observers of the natural world. They had to be to survive. So just the idea that somebody saw that face, is really just, I don't know. I want to believe that.
I do too. He looks like a very happy chap. I was trying to compare it to a very modern thing. It reminds me of the boss fight with Bowser in Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. There is a flying contraption that he pilots, and the smile on the face exactly looks just like it. Just my little aside there. But yes, I can see.
No, I did see you flash that.
Yeah.
Well, just the act of trying to figure it out gets us closer to an answer, but there might ultimately be no answer that we're going to come up with. It might be the next generation, or again, maybe that being will show up. On this topic, I have been the last few years telling my students, I'm supposed to advance only, truthful things, but sometimes I preface it with, this is one of my own original theories. I've told a few kids aliens are real, they're coming. So if it happens, 60, 80, 100 people are going to be like, he was right. So but yeah, I just thought that's an interesting place to start, and it's a good example, and it's just the latest piece of ancient art that has, caught my attention.
Sure, yeah, that kicks us off, doesn't it then? There may be an answer, there may not be an answer. It may be representative, it may be ritual, it may be practice. We frankly don't know, but it certainly points to an intelligence of our forebears that we perhaps haven't given them the credit for, let's say.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a message I keep, and again, anthropology is the study of humans across time and place. And I'll tell you, we're more similar than we are different. And we really have been doing the same things over and over. Technology's just advanced. So we call it the Stone Age because wood rots. We can't know what the wood age was except for occasional artifacts that are preserved under the right conditions. So so much evidence is lost or is underwater, whether in, the original coastline or Doggerland in the North Sea,
Yes.
Okay, for sure. Okay. So that was a land bridge, so there's so much evidence that is at the bottom of the North Sea that we can't access. So one of the things that I love to do with students is pull the curtains or close the blinds and turn off the lights and show them cave art, because I really do feel like it erases time, especially when you see the handprints that people made on the wall where they would put their hand and blow the red dust over it.
Yes.
And there's even some where there's an adult hand and a child hand, but it's 6 feet up in the air. So that parent had to be holding their child up to put their handprint. And just seeing that, I really do feel erases time in a way. And, if you do turn the lights off and, everyone, you can kind of capture their imagination, I really think it's a powerful, powerful thing. But what that cave art is, I think, says a lot. And, most of this is, sure, they're all over Europe, but there is a big concentration, in northern Spain and southern France. There are at least 4 bones that we've found. There's a couple in Africa, the Ashango and Lembobo bones, and then in Europe, the Wolf and Blanchard, or I guess if it's French, Blanchard bones. These are early lunar calendars, we think, or we're pretty sure, because the dots or the carvings, they both match the number, and sometimes if they're a crescent shape, we're pretty sure that these were early lunar calendars.
I see.
It's also like the oldest record of prime numbers, which is interesting. So we know that. And there's dots around the cave art, around all the fantastic animals, that people usually think of. There's all these dots. And people said, as I mentioned a moment ago, that it was, just art for art's sake or just decoration. But people have done studies and those line up with the stars. So those are the constellations. And the idea that we were leaving a calendar, or recording these animals show up at this time and this is what the stars look above. Yeah, it's a literal calendar.
Yeah.
And how do you transmit knowledge to the next generation when language is in its infancy? You leave pictures, right? How do you talk to somebody who speaks a different language than you? You use pictures. So I'll also say English previously had the record for, the language that spread fastest around the earth through war and conquest and, colonialism. But emoji, if you treat it seriously as a language, emoji has blown, that record of couple hundred years out of the water, because emoji is now the fastest spread and most used language on earth. Because I'd say you could have a conversation with someone in a different country from a different culture who doesn't speak your language through emoji.
You certainly could.
Not to go on a tangent or anything.
You certainly could. In fact, I have, on a number of occasions. It's just symbols and images, and meaning is conveyed through those. You don't have to be able to speak the language. You're absolutely right, of course.
Thank you. And please break in any time, because I could just go and go and go for hours, obviously. So, just when I absorbed that, it wasn't just, here's the animals we hunted, and that would be, they're recording what's important to them, for their survival. The constellation thing just really blew it open for me in my thinking and understanding. So another thing is, during the Ice Age, in that region, people think that the population dwindled to just a few thousand individuals. So that, maybe 2, 3, 5, 6, whatever thousand. So every modern European, is descended from them. And I was just curious where they went next, those people who survived the Ice Age. And, I did a little bit of research, and please, somebody fact check me, if I'm incorrect. It appears to me that they went north, and they went across Doggerland. I just mentioned the land bridge, connecting the British Isles to mainland Europe. And they went as far north, probably following the retreating glaciers. They went as far north as they could until they ended in Scotland. So I quite appreciate Scottish people, the ones I've met, and their humor. So if you've ever wondered why the Scots are such hard, crazy bastards, that's why. It's because they're the people who survived the Ice Age.
Quite. Maybe the whiskey helped.
Yeah. Well, just as, fellow, people who fought the English, I have a certain affinity to my brothers in Scotland.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I appreciate their humor. I think they're quite funny. But yeah, no, really, that's where those people who made that cave art went, and they ended up in Scotland, unless I'm incorrect. Another thing that I see on the walls a lot that I haven't seen got a lot of attention are river meanders. If you get to look at a river from the sky, whether a plane or on satellite image, it takes these big arcs that bend back on themselves and almost join again.
Almost oxbows.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yep. They're called oxbows. So we see those a lot on the cave walls, or I do, I should say. And I see it in other ancient art. I've seen human, anthropomorphs, whether a goddess or a man, with those patterns all over them. So I think that we also made that connection, that the animals congregate there. And the Chauvet Cave in France is above the Pont d'Arc natural bridge, where there's one of those river meanders. So although, that's maybe a more recent geologic thing where it punched through the mountain, but I got to believe we made that connection too, and all those things are together. So people have pointed out there's a progression from watching the seasonal migrations, watching the stars and moon, and the moon goes up and down in the sky, over the month, making the cave art, and then calculating the trajectory of a thrown object at an animal.
I see. Okay. Expand on that then.
I'm sorry?
Just expand on that just a little.
Okay, well, I'd also tell you this. The first iron weapons, we didn't like spontaneously come up with the idea to dig in the ground and, oh, there's this metal and then we can melt it down or file it and make an arrowhead. No, there was just rocks of iron sitting on top of the earth that we came across, right? And you could say if it was like bog iron or something, it's naturally occurring at the surface. But no, in fact, it was meteoritic iron.
Okay.
It was meteorite.
Yeah.
Because we have found ancient arrowheads that are meteoritic iron. So, and there's also like meteoritic iron daggers from ancient Egypt. So it's actually quite compelling to me, this idea that whether it's the rocks that fell from sky that allowed us to make the better arrowhead to kill the animal, or watching the moon go up and down and seeing that arc and keeping track of the stars and watching the animals come and go each year, you know, like it's as if the heavens themselves gave us and taught us everything we needed to know to survive.
Giving us instructions.
That's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's quite mind blowing, actually. Yes, the universe gave us the blueprint.
Well, and then to then carve the pattern of the moon on the bone, the leg bone of the animal you killed, right?
Yeah.
That's your calendar.
It is, yeah.
There's another. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Continue. You carry on. This is fascinating. You continue.
Well, there's just another little one. Turkeys, you know, that we have here in the States. They have modern turkey calls, which might be made with like a latex diaphragm or a little piece of slate that you scrape to mimic the call. But the original turkey call, the leg bone, one of the leg bones of the turkey, when it's dried out, if you blow through it, it makes exactly the sound a turkey makes to call them in and kill them. So that's not me. That's Mark Twain. Samuel Clemens wrote that. I won't take credit for it. But that, again, like what a trick of nature, you know?
Yeah. And I suppose you can think about, you know, when people talk about particular diets, you know, beans being good for the kidneys, or walnuts being a brain food, or the food that looks like the organ is good for that organ nutritionally. For sure.
So yeah, that's, you know, and then, I mean, I did take some notes, so I stayed focused. Going back to ancestral knowledge, several cultures, the Scots, the Norse, the Polynesians, native North Americans, noticed that on a turtle's shell, the number of outer and inner rings, there's 13 moons and 28 days on a turtle shell.
Oh, wow.
It's very coincidental.
It is.
Well, I don't know what you and your listeners our community wants to believe.
Well, then if the world itself is indeed perched on the back of what is it, 4 elephants perched on a turtle shell, then then there's that image for you as well. Yeah, the calendar of all calendars.
That's the next thing on my notes is I've shown students images of a turtle, you know, coming out of torpor, hibernation for the winter, and it has a bunch of mud and grass on its back.
Yes.
And my students have, you know, been very excited and said, I can totally see, you know, how, you know, people would think that. So yeah, I mean, again, it's really compelling, you know, believe what you want. I'll mention, you know, as we go on how my own beliefs have kind of changed, but me calling in is part of it, honestly.
Okay.
I'd also tell you, it sounds like you're a Sasquatch aficionado
as well.
Yes.
Love it. Yes.
Okay. So, I just recently heard, I could look up the video, you know, to find it, that, allegedly there's a cave in, I think it was Tennessee, where the Cherokee and Sasquatch have been having a conversation via cave art for hundreds of years.
I need to see this.
Well, here's the thing. The person I don't think would share, and there's literally thousands of caves in, you know, these square miles. And people have even said that those beings live in those caves.
Yes.
But I'll find it for you. I'll find it for you where it said. But no, I want to make a trip and try to find which particular cave it is. But there would be literally hundreds in just a few square miles.
There would. I'm surprised.
Yeah, again, a compelling...
I'm surprised that I've got Kathy Strain's book, Giants, Cannibals and Monsters, in which, frankly, I hoped there would be much more about rock art than there is. I'm surprised that wasn't actually featured in there as well. That's very, yes, please do share that with me. I want to say that, or, watch it.
Yeah, yeah. It was just somebody who had themselves been doing Sasquatch research in that region. But no, as soon as I heard it, I'm a little obsessed with finding that cave. So yeah, there's a few other things. Are you and I want to talk about that Virginia alien too, but are you and your listeners, well, just while we're on the Stone Age, I feel, and I'm on the air, I have to say this. Are you and your listeners familiar with the Carrington event of 1859?
Now, is that a magnetic pulse from space that strikes the Earth and tilts our axis? Is that something along those lines?
That's most of it. That's most of it. So,
gosh, I dragged that out from my memory. Well done.
Yes, no, that was most of it. I don't think. I mean, it might tilt us off our axis for sure. But basically, a solar storm would create a big enough solar storm, and we had some recently. This is what causes the aurora. A big enough solar storm would create an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, and with how interconnected we are right now, it would send us back into the Stone Age.
It would.
And the last time it happened was 1859. So we only had telegraph, but it knocked out our power, but there was just so much ambient energy in the atmosphere. I think Boston to Maine in the States were able to communicate over the telegraph, and they were saying, but our power's out. How are we able to talk and hear each other?
Wow.
So forget about GPS and the internet, that's gone, and cell phones, but every car built after, I guess, the late 80s would become a brick.
Yes.
So, I mean, we would be plunged again back into the Middle Ages or the Stone Ages. And in fact, having talked about the Stone Ages, I do want to talk about medieval Europe and stuff, time permitting. So, that's just humbling to think about, and we are long overdue for it. I mean, at least 100 years, or we would come up on 100 years pretty soon. But just knowing how interconnected we are. But I got to say, I'm a little bit on team civilization was bad, because look what it's wrought. I think we had it figured out at village scale, and we were happy. The native perspective, and this goes across, cultures, is that life is sacred. And, of course, you have to take a deer to eat it to live, but all efforts should be life-affirming and life-sustaining, and all of your efforts should be towards life. To do anything against life is inconceivable, When they meet someone, they greet them, hello. Even if it's a younger man, they would say father, brother, uncle, cousin, son, to reinforce this idea, not just that we are all connected right now, that we are coming back, and seeing each other again.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I will talk a little bit, about, the ramp up of civilization, but I've just revealed my own beliefs after a lot of study. And I'm not, going to talk politics,
Yes,
but
yes.
I don't think we've gone in a good direction. I think smaller was better. But yeah. Do you want me to pause? I mean, I would, invite readers, I muted the comments, just so it's
I
not
see.
distracting.
It moves quite quickly. One particular question is ask our caller what they think of the Denisovans.
Yeah, well, we know very, very a tiny fragment about them, because it's literally like a tooth and like a finger bone. I do know that after Out of Africa, if you subscribe to that theory, the next place we went is Southeast Asia, interestingly, because some of the oldest cave art, there's a pig. So that was the oldest representative art, because it's very clearly a big old pig.
Yeah.
And people who are like Filipino, for example, have that Denisovan DNA in them. And, people actually, there's like a line, are you speaking accurately about the differences in people's morphology and biology, and then racism. But, people in certain Southeast Asian cultures have different molars, which maybe goes back, when we had a different diet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the Denisovans also amazing tattoos and bracelets. I'm actually really interested in ancient tattoos. So that it's funny they're asking that. That's an area and culture that I'm interested in, and kind of that stone that we started with. That I hope it's an alien that some Siberian pastoralist met. That's the predecessor. So the next thing. So that's basically everything I wanted to say about like ancient art or cave art. The next is like the evolution of consciousness, which is
Yes.
something that people have written about and theorized about. And I would love to just teach a course on that, what's the evolution of consciousness, or how do we think about consciousness? And it's something that I've become I mean, that's also philosophy too.
Of
None of these are
course.
new questions.
Yes, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, people have argued that consciousness has emerged at different times, okay? Now, of course, hunter-gatherers had thoughts and rich interior lives to make the cave art I was just talking about. So I think I'm talking about the emergence of consciousness like en masse, in mass, because your life has to get pretty comfortable first for you to then have the luxury of thinking about and caring about yourself.
Of course, yeah.
If that makes sense.
You've got to be way
Okay.
past survival, haven't you?
Sure. Yeah. Uh, so there's a book that is often, cited or talked about, and it's, I don't think, read a lot. It's called The Origin of Consciousness in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. And it's by Julian Jaynes, who was a psychologist, and it's from the 70s. And he argues kind of two things in there. One is he has this theory of the bicameral mind, and he says that, the brain existed in these two separate modes until they were unified at a certain point. And I don't know if I buy that one. But what I think he does a great job of is describing, the evolution of actually just civilization, and with that thought, and, organized religion, because one of the things he argues, and other people do at different times, is that, like, let's say you're existing in Sumeria or Babylon, and you're getting whipped, you're pulling a giant stone block, you're being sent off to war, like, you do believe that that king is God. Your life is so miserable, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or you can't fault those people for maybe, so you could say that, and that's his other argument, is that we really were in ancient times, we were automatically obeying the words of gods and kings as if we really believed them, and I quipped, or I was talking about a friend, I was talking with some friends about this, and they quipped, some people still do, and I'm not trying to sound anti-religious at all, doing what I do for a living, but yeah, we always have, and we still do live in our own little curated realities. It's not always been algorithmically curated like it is now, but, you don't know what another person is thinking or what their reality is.
You're born into what you're born into, particularly in ages gone by, would have been all you knew. I think it is a recent, a recent thing for humanity to be able to escape their origins, as it were, and become something else. Because I suppose back in pre-industrial times, again, your life will likely have very much been one of preparation and survival, wouldn't it? Not in the sort of I live in the wilderness respect, but in the mundanity of, farming and getting animals ready and feeding them and preparing food and making your own clothes. It would have just been your self-contained universe, wouldn't it?
No, you're absolutely right. You said it more concisely at the start there. If that's what you're born, than I did. If that's what you're born into, that's your worldview. That's everything you know. And then you actually jumped ahead, to medieval England. So yeah, you're following my thinking here. So you could say early humans, when we're hunter-gatherers or really primitive, we were living more like animals because we were focused on survival. But then as civilization, advances after the agricultural revolution, and I'm talking in, Mesopotamia, Sumeria, Babylon, all that, you have these brutal rulers. You have modern warfare as we know it, at scale, large cultures, genuine cities, but the king is God. And then, yeah, I always think about medieval Europe because listen, the plague was ravaging Europe. You're struggling to farm turnips in mud until you're dead. And at church, what they're saying at church is this life sucks. It isn't the real one. In heaven, you'll see everyone you love again forever. Like, why wouldn't you believe it, compared to reality?
Yeah.
Right? So some people have argued that even then, if you're buying what the church is saying, and I'm also told like the organ and the building and the sound, it must have all been quite overpowering. People have argued that even throughout medieval Europe, there wasn't the idea of the self. And only in like the Dutch or Flemish Golden Age or the Italian Renaissance, when people started to get rich or comfortable and a middle class emerges, do you begin to care about yourself. Right? Like that Arnolfini portrait is like an example, because you see people, I would tell you we've always adorned ourselves. Jewelry goes way back. Tattoos go way back. I mean, just smearing red mud on your face with your early humans on your side of the river to differentiate, I'm sure, was the beginning of conflict and war. So we've always, cared about ourselves or marked ourselves as unique beings.
Yes,
but
yes.
yeah, as far as consciousness accessible to everybody, you could say, is a post-Renaissance or maybe even a post-industrial thing, or to really extend this to like the developing world in the present. Maybe some people don't have that luxury yet still in 2026 because they are struggling to survive every day. I'm not trying to be too serious or somber, but I think that's also true.
I think it is, because the entirety of the world is not at the same level, is it? So there are places, cultures and peoples who, and this isn't an IQ question, this isn't an intelligence question. Correct. It is a model of existence question. What is important to you when you wake up in your world? I think that's really where it lies, isn't it?
Yeah, and when I speak about this, I'm speaking, from the belief, and conviction, and I think the UN shares it, that, we all deserve, an unfettered path to become whoever we want to be safely,
yes.
Like every human, and to see people denied that, because people can't come to consensus or because of, hatred or ignorance or racism or whatever is, obviously a big bummer. So yeah, I only say when some people are struggling, they don't have the luxury to like care about and develop themselves. It's certainly not, a racist argument. I'm actually speaking because I think everybody should have that freedom and safety. But yeah. So regarding, that's just that's a very, very quick, that would be the chapter headings for, the arguments that people have made about when consciousness emerges. Mm-hmm. But, I could speak more broadly that simple optical illusions remind us that our perception is fallible, right? Is it a vase or is it two lovers kissing? Is it a duck or a rabbit?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, do you have those in the UK?
Yeah, we see those things of, the duck and the rabbit one, yeah, particularly, or the two faces together, but it's also a wine glass and all that kind of thing.
Yep. Or there's one, is it a young woman with a big feather hat looking away?
Yes.
Or is it an old crone? Is it your wife or your mother-in-law? I think they called that one.
Yes, that's it.
Right. So, simple optical illusions remind us that our senses are fallible. So I would invite, all the listeners to imagine, let's say you're on a picnic in a meadow and you're sitting under the one lone tree at the top of the hill, a very picturesque scene. Mm-hmm. And you can feel the sun warming your face, or you can feel the grass as you run your hand through it. You can smell the wildflowers that are blooming. You can see the wind moving the long, uncut grass in waves, right? You can hear the wind rustling the leaves in the branches of the tree, that you're sitting under. And you can even taste the cheese or the wine that you've brought with you.
All your senses, yeah.
But where is your brain during all this?
Mm. Yes, I understand. And I suppose, what did you call what was that word you used for the two halves?
The bicameral mind.
The bicameral mind. Is that kind of what we're kind of alluding to here? Is that there is a self and a computer within self, almost, two brains?
Well, That is some stuff that I do have later down the list. No, the bicameral mind is his own thing that I won't go into.
Okay.
But I guess what I'm trying to ask us to remember is you're right that those are all your senses that are sending your brain information. But I want to tee you up to succeed here. Where is your brain literally? Like, where is your brain?
Well, yes, of course, it's up in your head, isn't it?
Yeah, it's inside your skull. Your brain is encased in blackness forever.
Yeah.
Your senses, right, your fingers, your ear, your skin is perceiving those things, but your brain is locked in a black room forever. So your mind is at all times putting together a picture of what it thinks is going on based on the inputs it's getting from those other organs. So people have said that the brain is a prediction computer or a guessing machine. And there's this other idea that we understand reality and aliens and all this, based on our latest, greatest level of understanding. So, but it just has to factually be said that your brain doesn't have eyes. Your brain is encased in your skull. So it is putting together a picture of what it thinks is going on. I'll also tell you, talking about evolution, we do remember longest the things that hurt us most because that sets us up to survive. It doesn't set us up to be happy. Also, unfortunately, evolution doesn't even necessarily care about what's true or not. It cares about what helps you survive. I do think of society as just a big, slow algorithm that churns forward generation to generation, based on our improvements or failures.
Yeah.
And something I'd also point out is that, we've decoded the human genome. It's just these 4 letters, A, C, T, G, repeated, and if you swap one for another in an area, you get a change. You are computer code in a meat machine, because how else is a living being that will die and rot transmit itself and its information into the future? I don't know if that's reductive to say computer code in a meat machine, but I don't know.
Well, essentially, I think it's a very succinct way of putting it, to be honest. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the crazy one and, everyone else is sane, or everyone else is crazy and I'm the sane one. I don't know. Look at the world these days.
Well, who's to say? But again, even if you could confidently say who was crazy, your perception is still fallible. So what does it matter?
Well, I'd also say that mental illness is culture bound, by the way.
Okay.
Well, it's true because other cultures have other, illnesses that don't exist in the West. And, they've done this. If we were to go to the Amazon or Africa or whatever, like the idea of like plastic surgery, that you're going to mutilate your body to look a certain way would be abhorrent to another culture, but their practices are abhorrent to us.
Yes.
That's cultural relativism.
Yes.
And then I even had a colleague once, say you can't measure cultural commitment, which I thought was, an absurd thing to say. And I didn't say this because I didn't want to be argumentative or it was inappropriate. But the thought that popped into my mind, and I'm not trying to be flippant, but people cut the tips of their son's penis off. Like that, what do you mean you can't measure cultural commitment, whether for secular reasons or the original reason? Like, we maim our children for cultural commitment. So don't tell me you can't measure cultural commitment.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
People, yeah. We kill each other over it.
Well,
I mean, in the ancient world, you would have gotten killed if your pottery didn't have wavy lines on it, which I think is kind of absurd at a particular moment in history.
Wow.
Anyway, back to consciousness, and anyone can tell me if I'm off base here or disagree. But back to consciousness, you've probably heard about or talked about like the double slit experiment.
Yes, we've sort of touched on that a couple of times, yeah, which is the act of observing something changes the state of that thing, essentially.
1,000%, right? The particles behave differently whether someone's in the room or not. But we also all know and believe that feeling of you're being watched. And I swear, if I'm driving and I look at someone, they feel it and turn and look at me. I don't know about you folks.
Yeah, now where does that come from, do you think? Is that a sense in the way that you were discussing taste and touch and smell? Is that a sense that our brain is computing?
So this is funny because, like I said to you, how ancient wisdom can line up with high strangeness and current physics. Because I would have originally told you that That's it is a sixth sense. Your gut is that gut feeling is millions of years of evolution trying to keep you alive, because
Yeah.
people have been running in California in the mountains and reported that they just felt this odd, eerie feeling, this uncanny feeling, and that a cougar, a mountain lion, was actually stalking them, you know? So I really do believe that, and I tell people that if you get that gut feeling that you're unsafe, you should leave. Like, that is a true thing. But I also think there might now be like a quantum component to that, because people are researching bird migration, which we've never really understood, and I certainly believe they feel the geomagnetic field, but there's some quantum stuff going on with bird migration. So originally I would have told you it's evolution baked in, it's innate, but now I do wonder if there's something bigger. And like related to this, we perceive very little of the natural world, right? Talking about birds, like pigeons and bees, they see ultraviolet.
Yes.
There's animals that we consider lesser than us that see more. A bee sees a flower and that meadow totally differently than we do. We still can't really explain how birds, fish, you know, whatever, mammals migrate around the world. Do you know the animal that sees the most colors, so to speak, that perceives the most visual, you know, wavelengths?
I don't off the top of my head. I assume it's some sort of insect.
Okay, yeah, well, you're close, and should I pause and let people guess in the chat? I don't know how interactive we want to make it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
I want
we can do that.
everyone to feel included.
Yeah, you.
Because I would love if somebody knows.
Yeah, reveal that in about a minute's time, because there's a delay as well. So let's hang on to that.
I'll give another analogy. So people have said there's like a headset analogy. Okay, like when you're driving in the car, they only give you a steering wheel, 2 or 3 pedals, and the shifter. You can't adjust the fuel-air mixture. You can't adjust the engine timing. They've made it simple for you, right? They've dumbed it down.
Yes.
For your safety, really. And in fact, early automobiles had all kinds of other silly levers and doohickeys, you know, and were much more complicated. Thank God they were going 3 miles an hour. But, you know, if that is what the car manufacturers, who we agree are fellow humans, right? It's almost, you know, it's not insulting, but if that's what the car manufacturers have done for us, evolution has done that for us, I think. They've narrowed it down to what we need to survive. Okay.
Okay. And
this sense, that's not an original idea.
Yeah. This sense of being watched then is one of those tools that you need to survive.
For sure, but I'd argue that other ones that are superfluous or just too much have been winnowed away with time and, you know, repeated, you know, evolutionary processes. Or, you know, God, aliens made us, whatever, but that's for a minute from now. So, you know, just subscribing to the Darwinian paradigm. Should I go back to the colors?
Yes, of course. Enough? Yeah, I think we've had a gecko as the seems to be the lead choice there, gecko, and that seems to be it.
Okay, well, I'm happy to say our host was closest. So it's the mantis shrimp that lives in the coral reefs and is a predator, and they have either these arms that spear their prey really fast, or they have these clubs that travel at an incredibly fast rate of speed to hit.
Oh, these are the ones that punch fish. Those.
Yep.
Oh my God! Right.
Yep,
okay.
Yep. And if you look at their eyes really close up, it's really fantastic. But hey, crustaceans are sea bugs, so you were right on.
Yeah, I got that right. Yeah.
And yeah. I'm proud. I'm happy. I'm thankful for you. But, you know, and when I thought about it for a sec, I mean, a coral reef is an incredibly colorful environment and all those fish, so it makes sense. But, hey, we think we're top, you know, being on planet Earth, but the shrimp can see everything, right?
Yes.
I think that should be humbling. That should be humbling to us. You know, we see, what is it, you know, 5 shades ultimately, really? Everything's just a blend of those 5 shades.
Yeah, how exciting for us.
So, you know, even just... Yeah, well, let's also talk about color theory, you know? I mean, I could ask you to name some things that are red. Would you?
Yes, a red apple, a stoplight, you know, this red thing next to me, and I know what you're going to say. How do I know that the red I see
Yep.
is the same red
Yeah.
that you see? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And, depending, I've taught students of different ages and adults. I do like blowing children's minds with stuff like that, But, I mean, that's what it's all about. Like, thinking about that stuff makes us smarter. And most of what I've talked about isn't my original ideas. Plato's allegory of the cave, and there was a Chinese guy who said, he dreamt he was a butterfly and he woke up, but then was I a man dreaming I was a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming I was a man? Like, which is, yeah. So, I think a lot about screens lately because we spend a lot of time on them, or I try not to. But, that if we extend that headset analogy where, whether it's evolution or our makers, whoever they or he may be, has dumbed it down for us, or we really, if you admit with the simple optical illusion that our senses get it wrong and we're perceiving only a limited slice, whether it's driving with the windshield, or when you look at a painting, it's as if you're supposed to look through a window and the sailboat is real, and that's what makes it a good painting, because it looks like the scene of the Flemish countryside,
Yes.
A television, eyeglasses, your computer screen, your phone screen, windows, your own eye holes, if I may, I'm not trying to make people question their sense of reality, but you really are always just kind of looking through a set of binoculars that you have strapped to your head.
Yeah, something's always just being presented to you, isn't it? So on that then, if we were to subsume all of this into a direction, and that direction is what we talk about on this channel, which is the uncanny, the weird. This is strange beings, strange experiences of beings in particular. If we are anchoring this into, let's say, several layers, one of which is our perception is fallible. Certainly that's a layer that we can interpret these experiences through. The second is, if, be it evolution or creation, that has given us all the tools that we need for survival, is it the case that some individuals or perhaps lineages are more primed for survival than others because they are able to see and experience these uncanny and unusual things? I'll leave it that as the beginning of the question.
Well, no, we're organically a good partnership, because I actually arrived at the fourth topic, which is aliens, gods, demons, spirits, fairies.
Yes.
And the idea that we think our ancient ancestors were misinterpreting natural phenomenon and creating mythology based on it.
Sure.
And that is what I would have told you, maybe, the first, 15 years of my career. But the Jacques Vallée idea that the demons, fairies, angels, gods, aliens are all the same, right?
Yes.
That the reason we're calling them aliens is it's just our latest level of technological understanding, or that's our metaphor. And even the brain, we're now saying the brain is a computer. Well, in ancient Greece, they had the four humors and the black bile, and, in colonial America, they're throwing leeches on people, and you know what I'm trying to say.
Of course,
so
yeah.
And the thing that I'd said first to my students, that we shouldn't think of our ancient ancestors as dumb. I said that first, but then I realized, well, why am I thinking that they're misbelieving all this other stuff? Like, I'm exactly doing what I caution them not to.
Yes.
So, are you and your listeners familiar with, like, the fourth dimension, the cube inside the cube?
Oh, I am. I'm quite sure many of these chaps will be. Yes, certainly.
Yeah.
With UAP phenomena, it's suggested that these may be four-dimensional objects breaking into a three-dimensional view. We can only see a part.
1,000%. And there's a YouTube video called 4D Toys that really, really accurately shows it. But to me, there's, to talk about the UK, there's all these accounts, they were kidnapped by the fairies and taken off to fairyland.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, whether you call it the fourth dimension or fairyland, it's the same thing, Native North Americans have the little people, the moon-eyed people,
Yes.
There is a progression with, like, religion and worldview matches the mode in which you are living. So hunter-gatherers, their religion was animism, right? Tree spirits, river spirits, whatever. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're living in tune with the natural world. So then when you get to village scale, it becomes ancestor worship. But that makes sense because you're staying in the same place, your generation, heck, giving your home to your children to inherit is how you still transmit wealth to the next generation. But there's also these beautiful, examples where I'm happy to tell your listeners, if they don't know this already, people would literally keep their ancestors' bodies under their beds in ancient homes. And I just think that's such a beautiful idea, Like they literally buried them right under where they sleep.
Goodness me, that seems odd to me, doesn't it? But yes, I wasn't aware of that.
Maybe. Yeah, no, I know how it sounds, but again, the whole I've spent years trying to do the cultural relativism thing. The real motivation behind it is love, and there are cultures still to this day in places like Papua New Guinea where they bring the mummified ancestors out once a year to honor them.
Yeah, that's right.
And they put. Yeah, they'll give them a cigarette and a Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
But in China, they do ancestor worship to this day. People have a little altar, in their home. So people still do it. And in Africa, they still do ancestor worship. But the real motivation is love for your ancestors. And in fact, I think, I don't want to pontificate here, we now in the modern industrial West have this whole industry where we, well, I'd also say we have an unhealthy relationship with death, but we send our old folks away to homes. In Japan to this day, in Italy, the grandparents still live at home and care for the young and feel valuable and live longer. In the West, we send our old folks away, or to Florida in the United States. So
to Del Boca Vista.
It's a totally different. Yeah, it's a totally different way of thinking, and but that's another topic for another time. So Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, the Sumerian, Anunnaki, the fish people, and the Indian gods. Again, if it's made-up myths explaining natural phenomenon, it's presumed on us being smarter than them or that they're dumb, And I'll admit, I'm not saying I've come around and I totally believe it, but I'm much more willing to believe it now. And like regarding, aliens, because you were talking about Virginia.
Yes.
So there's always been an ammonia or a sulfur smell, reported with both demons of old and aliens now, and the Varginha being had that.
Yeah.
I listen to so many, UFO reports and abduction experiences, and of course you can say it's somebody making it up or it's recalled through hypnosis, so it's fallible. But, the aliens have been saying the same things over and over. And there was like one in particular that really scared me. It was actually a UK Special Forces guy who had been called on a crash retrieval because that's where it happened, or it was somewhere in Europe. And he was the, nearest qualified guy, but it's like a combined response.
Okay.
And, we all know the little gray guys with the big eyes, but he said, no, it looked like a demon. It was bigger than us. It was stronger than us. It could tear us apart like nothing. And that crash, he unfortunately did report that there was a bin of human body parts in the craft.
Oh, my God. Right.
Yeah, and I don't want to send your viewers down an unpleasant rabbit hole, but there is a website called like badaliens.info where it has all of those recurring mutilations that happen to cattle that happen to people. But I honestly think that's government more than intergalactic beings, believe it or not. I'm that cynical. I think that's government doing that to people. But, yeah, just, I don't want to go too tangential. There's also a theory that the national parks in America were put there specifically to cover up areas that are energetically interesting or charged, or where there are kind of, portals, so to speak.
Well, of course, yes. Mr. Paulides and his missing 411 seems to come to that conclusion as well, in a way.
For sure, and that would be the 3D, 4D thing. And, I do think that, UFOs showed up in the American Southwest because of our nuclear testing. But, I've spent a lot of time listening to video and audio of Native Americans, and those have always been taboo places, if not sacred places, or
Yes.
sometimes both, right?
Skinwalker
So
Ranch,
there's
places
also,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, but all across the Southwest, and I'd say other parts of the globe as well. So there was a really crazy account. This one is out there, and I think the ones that have the most insane details somehow have the most veracity. There was a man who was in one of those national parks, and he said he saw giant lizard men. I'm going to try to be concise, loading dead and living Sasquatch through a portal.
Oh my God. Okay. That's my kind
I'll
of thing.
find that one. I'll find that one too for you.
Yes,
Email,
please.
I'll email the link. But that one's that checks all the boxes.
It really does. Yeah. What do you think of the what do you think of Mount St. Helens then? Supposed Bigfoot being taken away by the authorities after being injured in the blast, the eruption.
Oh, so, again, having studied anthropology, and I know Dr. Jeff Meldrum passed away recently.
Yes, unfortunate.
So
yeah.
And I would have originally told you that I thought Bigfoot Sasquatch was an organic being that is maybe a relict population. But now I would be absolutely willing to believe there's something more, to them too, and to all of us, really, I would. I haven't heard that specific account, but I've heard so many accounts of the government covering it up, different government agencies,
Sure.
There's just so much evidence, whether it's, like I said, the Jacques Vallée thing that we've all been describing the same thing with just different faces. There's just such a compelling body of evidence for all of it, if you treat it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really is the key to it. If you are willing to just read about it without trying to come to an opinion, because your opinion will form eventually. You will get there eventually, but the act of simply reading it, and the sort of the dichotomy here is, of course, I can read through my eye holes, as you put it. Is that just another version of reality I am being presented with? Where do you stop? Where's the cutoff of, do you know what, I've made up my mind, versus this is just another mirage to try and look through? It's very difficult, isn't it?
Well, I would say this, whether it's a god or gods that made us, or aliens made us and they're the zookeepers watching, or it's a simulation, or some people say that it's a living sentient universe and we, like your previous caller, we are the living sentient universe experiencing itself as individual beings, that
yes.
Behind every face is the same soul. I mean, I think we're the zeros and ones, so to speak.
I see.
I'm talking about computer binary,
Yes.
that we are the zeros and ones. But it's just a different way of describing the same thing. Peruvian shamans had said that the dream world is the real world. That because when you read a book or see a film, you're supposed to get lost, and you do get lost in it. If it's a good book or a film, you
Absolutely.
are really living that story.
Absolutely.
I don't know if this is too metaphorical or out there.
No, I think it's absolutely, bang on with what we're talking about. It's my theory, my question rather is, if this waking world is not the real one, according to the shamans, why are the days so long? Why are the days so long, and the dreams so short?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because the next thing on my list is time, and I wanted to ask you,
are we quantumly entangled here? I keep preempting your next bit.
Well, no, that's good. You're a good student. No, I honestly did want to be sensitive to the time for the other callers.
Yes, of
I'm
course.
on my last page of. Okay, I'm on my last page of notes, and it is the topic of time and how humans perceive it, and that fallibility. So, do you want me to keep going for a little bit more?
Yeah, let's see if you can you can do 15 minutes of it, and then we'll take a break.
Yeah. I can wrap it all up.
Magic.
Okay, so I don't know if you and your listeners saw a few years ago, somebody published a paper that got a lot of attention, alleging that squid and octopus are aliens.
I have heard the suggestion. I haven't read the paper, however.
Okay, so, they are totally on their own branch of the tree of life, and they're so different. It is, accurate to say they're the closest things on this earth maybe we would get to meeting an alien, because they are so unique. But it is also true that viruses are older than life. Viruses are actually not life itself. We don't really know what they are. They don't meet all the criteria, yet they still exist. And I hope, everybody accepts that when you get sick, a virus does alter your DNA. We've co-evolved with them. So the early Earth was like a pan-oceanic Earth of warm water, which is an excellent medium for growing life.
Soup,
look at human babies in utero. Yeah, that primordial soup. And our oldest common ancestor of every living being is the stromatolites. I don't know if your listeners know what they are. You can see them, I think, in Australia still. They're just these big, like, green, they look like rocks, but they're like algal colonies. They're just big green lumps. But that's our oldest ancestor. And just the idea of them being covered by the water and then exposed to the sun and having to, like, harden to that, is the beginning of that evolutionary process. So I'm just trying to say that early Earth ocean was a pretty habitable place. And, the argument is being made that, alien viruses could land. I will say this is true. Most of the periodic table came from space to Earth, right? All of these chemical elements that are real came from space and got on Earth. So if the periodic table is extraterrestrial, the idea that a space rock with a little bit of frozen, alien viral, virus on it, lands, and that they are aliens, or at least alien influenced, is what the gentleman was advancing.
Sure.
They also perceive time much more differently because they can sense with all of their tentacles, and they have a very short, like a 1-2 year lifespan. So people even suggest that they have multiple brains, right? Don't they have a brain in each tentacle, even if it's a smaller one? So they are perceiving a lot of inputs at once. They're perceiving time differently. So we humans are time-bound beings. Kurt Vonnegut, in his book Slaughterhouse-5, actually has a really, really good metaphor or analogy. He says that we have, binoculars strapped to our head, and we're looking at a distant mountain range,
Yes.
And if you weren't looking through the binoculars, the mountain range would look like a straight line. But when you do look through the binoculars, you see how jagged the peaks are. So the faraway mountains are the past and the future, and us looking through the binoculars is our present. A more poetic way to say it would be, you're the leaf falling off the tree into the brook of time, the running water of time, and you have no control once you fall into it.
You're just carried, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and even Martin Heidegger, the German philosopher who, he did some Nazi stuff, so we're not supposed to love him, but he had this idea of thrownness, that you are thrown into existence without your consent, and you don't get to pick whether you're the pharaoh or the slave.
Well, there's something to that, isn't there?
Yeah, I didn't consent to exist.
No.
So yeah, there's that. So back to the aliens and the high strangeness and the 4D. If we believe all that, aliens don't travel across the distance of space. They travel through time and blip in and out of our dimension.
Yes.
So that's why it appears to move so fast. And people have also said that the orb or the disk is our 3D view, our incomplete 3D view of a 4D object.
That's
like
right.
Pressing your knuckle. Yeah, like pressing your fist or your knuckle or your finger on a sheet that's been stretched out. And there's a great YouTube video called like 4D Toys or 4D Toy Box, and it really, really exemplifies that really well. There's another one where, a girl has a Valentine that she locks away in her safe because she doesn't want anyone to read it. But if you're a 4D being, you could just reach right in there and pull it out.
That's it, yeah. I think I saw it compared to ourselves as 3D beings, essentially being able to... So in a 2D world, you might well have gone into your little space, which is encapsulated by 3 walls and a gap that you can get into, or 3 wouldn't be quite walls, but you understand my meaning. 3 sections of,
Yep.
and the other 2D creatures cannot see you in there, but I, as a 3D creature, can just look from above and see everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, the way I so simply do it is I draw a circle and then a dot in the middle on a piece of paper. And if you're a 2D being, that's the top of your head, and you're looking at a circular wall surrounding you. But to us, we're the gods, the 3D beings looking down from above.
That's it. Yeah.
So I know you're a fan of All Colors Sam.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely.
Okay, as am I. And again, that one just checks so many strange boxes. Some people have said it's a pedophile, luring children in a costume. But, I have heard so many alien encounters where the aliens, or the being, I'm just going to say aliens for shorthand.
Sure.
They say everything is light, sound, vibration, the same thing, that matter is an accretion or, of those things. And, when Sam said, I am all colors Sam, the idea that like the visible light can be, compressed into matter. People say we're stardust, like you are made up of all the previous stuff, just really compelling to me.
Oh, I see. So he's literally the colors, as it were. He is literally...
Yeah, it wasn't his patchwork costume. He's letting us know that he's a interdimensional being, But they've also, the aliens said that we can heal ourselves. We've just lost the cultural memory, that we could live much longer. Besides our bad diet, we could live much, and in ancient times, humans did live much longer. But that is in all kinds of myth and religion.
Yes, it is.
And it is, yeah. And then there's also like accounts of Buddhist monks meditating outside in the mountains, and they place wet towels on them, and then through the energy of their meditation, they not only dry the towels are steaming. So, aliens say that we've forgotten our power and that everything is these things, light, sound, vibration, color, and it's all the same. And again, I don't know how that factors with the quantum stuff, but that's what I mean when I say ancestral knowledge kind of lines up with or confirms the latest, greatest physics. And that's what's made my thinking kind of open up. And I'll admit to you, when I was a boy, I read all the classic alien stuff like the Roswell crash, and scared myself reading all that when I was a kid. And then, grew up and, I studied what I studied and I teach what I teach. But now, there's all this stuff that's happening in the news and the disclosure, I wanted to ask you, do you know about the Santa Isabel entity?
Oh gosh. I don't, I might do, but you'll have to remind me.
It was in a factory in South America.
Oh no, I don't know about this one.
Okay, I'll tell it quickly, but I would invite viewers to watch, the longer videos from really other great, content creators on YouTube. So it's the Santa Isabel entity. And long story short, it's a factory. The night watchman is there doing the rounds. He literally locks up the washroom at the start of the rounds, and it's a big one with lockers and showers for the factory. So he locks the washroom. He does his walk of, and it's a very large facility, so an hour or two. And then when he comes back, he unlocks the washroom, and then in there is this large being, and I just feel like there's these kind of commonalities across them. There's this large being in a tight suit, and it's sitting in quite a provocative pose on the sink, and it's much larger than a man. It has a face that looked as if it was sculpted out of clay. It was white. It was clearly not a human because it was the size, but the face wouldn't move. And I really got to believe that maybe these aren't the aliens themselves. Maybe it's, some biological robot, that they're producing to test us. The encounter isn't the encounter. The aliens are the anthropologists.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And imagine being that night watchman and,
oh, gosh.
you're the only one in there, and you go in the dark bathroom and someone said it looked like Batman, really.
Oh.
And I also wonder whether, and this is linked to All Colors Sam, I wonder if they're trying to make a packaging or a form that is familiar and acceptable to us.
Funny you should say that, because I've just been sort of editing Tuesday's video, and in that is Men in Black. And there's a section just about how it isn't necessarily the sort of fear factor that they generate themselves, but it's the the way that their performance as a human is just not quite right that makes them so frightening.
Oh, absolutely. And whether that's them trying to cover their butts, their own tracks. There's also many encounters where a family, comes in and they're dressed so perfectly anachronistically from decades ago, and they order strange combinations of foods, and they pay with really old money and walk out, and the proprietor just has this eerie feeling about them. I used the word uncanny before, and Freud, he maybe kind of got a little too high on his own supply there and lost in the sauce, but Freud, I don't know if he coined the word uncanny, but it's our translation in English of the German unheimlich, which means unhomely, to describe that feeling. And the uncanny valley with, zombies and robots. So his use was unhomely. You just recognize. But I've said, to go back to evolution real quickly, I've told students, it's evolutionarily advantageous for us to be repulsed by a dead body because it could rot and get
disease,
you sick.
etc.
So the idea that zombies are scary is because we're not supposed to stick around dead bodies. You are supposed to leave your ancestors behind or bury them or do something. So I do think that there's all these things are related. The only other thing, I'm getting to the last thing on my list, and it was the Green Man, or little beings, fairies, little green beings, or the Green Man in the UK.
Oh, yes, the sort of Wiccan spirit, as it were. Not even Wicca, probably earlier than Wicca. A nature spirit, the Green Man, sometimes a guardian, sometimes not.
Yeah, and I forgive me, I don't know if you've done a video on this or I've seen others, but people report both, in more ancient times and all the way into the present, encountering small, smiling green beings that have like a mocking, twisted face or make like a mocking expression.
Yes.
So I just heard this account, in America, in Virginia, this was on a Sasquatch channel, there was a man who, unfortunately, his mother passed away, and right around the time of that death saw hooded figures, Sasquatch, and then a small green being who pointed at its own eyes and then pointed at him as if to say, "I'm watching you."
Oh, God.
I know. So this poor man, on top of the death of his mother, but, I'm sure your listeners, other people know that would be a time where that barrier is maybe a little thinned or broken, and those beings are around. Also, seeing multiple hooded figures skulking around in the woods around your house is terrifying.
It is. We had a caller from the Genesee Valley who had that exact experience. He was very relaxed about telling it, but goodness me, not something I would like to experience.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the end of my list of things I wanted to talk about, at least on this call. And really, my own thinking has kind of come around where, just to say it again, earlier I would have told you that these myths and religions are in ancient people's imperfect understanding of the world and what they saw, and it, could be a meteor or an eclipse or whatever. But no, I'm willing to believe all of it now, because we perceive so little, and, we're here for such a little amount of time. It's hubris. It would be such arrogance to think that we've got it all figured out.
Absolutely would. And really, you can succinctly wrap all this up in just one phrase, which is, no matter when you were, I know what I saw.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to, isn't it? I know what I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never had a paranormal experience other than one time, but there's enough plausible deniability to, write it off.
Sure.
But it's just something I'm interested in.
Yeah, and it's been incredibly interesting talking to you as well. I do hope you can call again at some point. We are going to wrap for a break. Ordinarily, we finish at 11 o'clock. However, we will extend the show tonight until midnight. And I must thank you ever so much for your call, our special guest tonight. Thank you ever so much. It's been a pleasure.
Oh yeah, thank you, big fan. Sorry if I went on too long.
Not
at
at
the cost of
all.
other callers.
Not at all. I think when I was communicating with you, I said let's sort of take the first hour or so. So we've done just that.
Sure.
Yeah, it rolled into what it did, and I've enjoyed it very much indeed. Thank you, sir, for the call.
I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Cheerio then. Goodbye.
Good night.
There we are, ladies and gentlemen. That was our special guest, arranged rather last minute. Yes, don't go anywhere, because we are not finishing at 11 o'clock today. We are carrying on till the midnight hour, or as close to the midnight hour as, damn it, if I fall asleep or not. So, yes, Emu Cat, quite midnight in the desert of England. That's it. Right. We'll have a short break, and we'll be back in a minute or two. YouTube show is only a part of the vault. Beyond the broadcast is the archive. And at eeriesvault.com you'll find our growing library of case files, first-hand accounts of the unexplained, written reports from people who lived through something strange. And we need yours. If you've carried a story for years, if you've never had the chance to put it into words, and this is where it belongs, Your report will stand alongside others, building a record that may one day help us see patterns that we cannot see alone. And it's easy. Go to eeriesvault.com, open the Case Files page, and hit the Submit a Case button. Fill in the details and send it on its way. Because strange events pass quickly into silence unless someone records them. Don't let your story vanish. Put it in the vault. From the depths of the vault, this is Eerie's Vault Live. Every Friday at 9 p.m. GMT, the lines are open. UFOs, aliens, ghosts, strange creatures, time slips, encounters you cannot explain. If you've seen something unusual, if something has haunted you, followed you, or simply left you wondering, then this is your place to tell it. Call in and share your story. You can watch the show live on YouTube or stream it directly at eeriesvault.com. And if you're too shy to call, then you can email ahead of the show at eeriesvault@gmail.com, and I will read your story out for you on air. That's Eerie's Vault Live, Friday nights, 9 p.m. GMT. Be part of it. For those of you who want to go deeper, there is the Eerie's Vault Patreon. Here you'll find the evidence. Original newspaper clippings, forgotten publications, rare documents. You'll see the raw material behind the stories, and you'll gain access to exclusive videos, some filmed on location at the very places we discuss, and you'll be able to watch private follow-up videos to the cases already covered on the main channel. It's not just about watching here, it's about joining the search, and by supporting the Vault, you help to keep the archive alive, help uncover more material, and help to bring these stories into the light. And if you've ever wondered what all these marks are on this map here, well, patrons get access to this interactive encounters map to peruse at their leisure. It gets updated regularly and will grow to be one of the most comprehensive encounters maps in the world. If you've ever wanted to be closer to the investigation, if you've ever wanted to see what lies behind the curtain, then Patreon is where it begins. And with numerous membership options, what are you waiting for? Head over to the Vault. This is Eerie's Vault Live, and I am your host, Leon Eerie, and this is your #1 stream for the weird, the strange, and the unexplained. That's right, weird and strange. And unexplained. Bit of an error there in that trailer. It's not every Friday, of course. It's every other Friday at the moment, isn't it? But yes, fascinating call there from our special guest. A lot to take in and a lot to think about. Certainly would stand up to having another listen through all of that. I really enjoy the just oh gosh, I'm getting old and it's getting late. I really enjoy the questioning of the subject and the digging and the investigation, not only of factual events but of theories and things like that. We've got another call heading my way. Good evening, you're on Eerie's Vault Live. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. That was an absolutely excellent guess.
Wasn't
Excellent.
it? Yes.
I was listening and I couldn't stop. I was followed up washing and I had to stop, put the basket down and just listen to this gentleman.
Yeah, I love the theoretical and the philosophical parts combined. It's really where my interest lies, you know. The tantalizing suggestion you may find an answer, but the knowledge that you never will.
That's a very good philosophy to go with. You may not find the answer, you may not know it.
Exactly.
But I do have an answer for you, Lehan.
Oh.
Do you know anything about flashing lights in the sky?
Well, I know some of them are aeroplanes. I know some of them are stars. And I know some of them are other things. What's your take on this?
Well, this is an incident that happened while I was maybe about 9 or 10-year-old.
Mm.
I was outside at, of all things, a children's playground at the local pub with my family.
Okay. Did it by any chance have a big plastic tree in it? A lot of them did back then, didn't they?
It did, actually. How did you know?
I'm psychedelic.
It had a big plastic tree. It certainly did. And what happened was that I had been playing with, some of the other kids. You know how you make friends, you never see them again.
Yeah, the best type of
when
friends.
you're that age.
Yeah.
And I kept noticing a very strange kind of it was almost like a camera flash. Every now and then you'd see like what we describe as a camera flash happen. So I'm looking around going, I wonder what this is.
Mm.
So I'm looking for people because to me it's a camera flash to the eye.
Okay.
So I looked around. I couldn't see anybody with a camera gun. Obviously, there weren't smartphones or any kind of mobile phone that would have that in those days.
Mm.
And I looked up in the sky and it was clear. You could see stars, but there was no helicopters. There was no planes. And I did take a look at the floodlights because it was getting a bit late at night. So I looked for the floodlights, but they were fine. So I got fed up of this. I'm like, my imagination, whatever, it's playing games on it. I'm just playing with other people. Sorry, imagination, you're going to have to stop. So, like I said, I thought it was my imagination that it happened.
Mm.
Well, about half an hour later, me and the other kids were sitting, believe it or not, in the tree, talking, and we all just got spooked by this flash. It was like an intense bright flashes, and we all went, right, I'm going back in. I thought I was the only one that was seeing those flashes. I thought I was the only one, and a girl who I was playing with said, yeah, I've been seeing those flashes since we came out here, as anybody else. And obviously, there was no parents out there to actually tell us what on earth that was or give us any explanation. So we're just sort of like, yeah, weird, isn't it? So we started counting the minutes between the flashes because, thunder and lightning, it might be thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
There was, how you used to when you were a kid, you go 1 elephant, 2 elephants, 3 elephants.
To see how far the storm away is.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was no rhythm to it. There was no pattern to it. It would just happen randomly. And I wasn't the only one that noticed it. Eventually, we ended up going inside because we kind of got all freaked out, and our parents were going, what are you doing inside? And like, there's something weird outside. There's these flashes. So I told my dad because he worked in engineering, he worked in the aerospace, and he just said, it's okay, it's fine. You probably just saw, I don't know, he didn't say what it was. He said, well, you've probably just seen something. So that later on, it was about maybe an hour later, we were walking back home, and we used to live near a big field with trees. We just started walking down the embankment, and we saw the flash again. And my mum got startled, and my dad just said, "Oh, isn't that strange?" And he walked back down. So I'm just like, why, Mum, I'm like, did you see that? No, yeah, we've been seeing it as we've been sitting out inside.
Oh, okay.
But obviously the sky was clear. There was no clouds. You could see stars, but there was nothing that would make it that kind of weird flash. Obviously, we didn't live near an area it was nowhere near fireworks. There was nowhere bonfire night, but there was just this strange flashes. It was as though everything around you just lit up, and it did frighten you. So I was going to be honest, I didn't want to go back to the pub next week because I don't want to go back to the pub. It'll be flashing.
Yeah, sure.
And
yeah.
it didn't happen, and it didn't ever happen again. But it was just so weird because it was really weird because I had no explanation for it. Whether it was, again, I always thought to it, is this paranormal or is there an explanation for it? I don't have any, because I looked for everything that it could be. Is it thunder and lightning? No. Is it a plane? No. Helicopter? No. Somebody with a camera? No. Nothing. Couldn't find what it was, and it didn't ever happen again.
How strange.
So when I asked my dad about it, he just said, well, it's just one of those things. And he didn't say anything else. So for years, because I was actually thinking about it last week, I'm like, I didn't tell you about the flashing incident.
Was it quite frequent, the flash, or you said there was no rhythm to it? Certainly.
No, there was no rhythm to it. It was as though it would happen. I once counted it was like 5 minutes, and then you did see a flash, and then it would be about 20 minutes, and it would be another flash. Because I used to think maybe it was just somebody with a torch, but torches
in the
don't
sky.
light up the entire. Yep. Torches don't light up the entire, it would only just light up a signal beam, but this didn't. It was as though when you have a camera flash, it was as though it was a giant camera flash, and you just, for a moment, everything just turned white. And everybody sort of experienced that. So when I vaguely remember going home and going to sleep. I was watching out the window and I didn't see anything. I'm thinking, is it a comet? And it didn't really make any sense to me. I don't know whether anybody's experienced that or you, Eerie, but any explanation is granted to be great, because I can't explain it.
No, it's not. I can't think of any. It sounds like a glint of what our previous caller may say is a 4-dimensional object just peeking into our 3-dimensional world. Goodness knows. I mean, who really knows? But yeah, it's I don't think it was a torch from what you're saying. Aside from this plastic tree, why am I seeing a red and white awning at the same time as you're telling this story?
Well, if I remember correctly, there was... You could actually climb up you could actually climb something up, and there was awning, but it was green. Oh,
it was green. All right. Maybe I'm colorblind.
Yeah, it was green. It was green. You could climb up it, and you could get to one of those, what I call fire station poles.
Yeah.
You could get to like a fire station pole. And it was, like I said, us kids were just, we didn't sort of notice it. We didn't notice it. We just carried on playing until obviously we all sat down and went, oh my God. We're all going, have you seen that flash? Yeah, I've seen that flash. Gosh, my parents saw it. Yeah. My temporary friends saw it.
Temporary friends. Yeah, how very odd. And in the sky as well. And yes, no obvious source.
No.
Who can say? It's another one of those mysteries, isn't it? And it's, as your dad would have said, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Years I was thinking, is it paranormal? Is it just somebody, really being obnoxious and doing something? I just don't have an explanation for it.
There's a number of theories in the chat, one of which is intermittent light flashing from Orion's belt, potentially a satellite glinting, or even a pervert in the bushes with a camera of being suggested in the chat.
I mean, I hope it wasn't, because yes, we did actually. It's a good theory because we did actually live near the pub was actually near some woods, but you'd have heard somebody moving because they had very thin trees. You could see everywhere because the trees were really thin. If there would have been a light, you would have seen it flash in between the trees.
Yeah, not in the sky where it was.
The light from Orion's belt, maybe I can believe that because it was actually quite starry out that night.
Mm.
But I didn't, because at first I was like, is it a comet? Because I'd seen quite a few meteors at that time. But I couldn't really give any explanation as to why. Nobody was like, well, what could it be?
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody could tell me. Because I even asked people at school, when you go to that pub, do you see flashes? And they just looked at me like, no. No.
Like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yep. Somebody actually said to me, didn't they have a disco on? I'm like, no, they didn't have any discos on that night. There was no discos on. It's just one of those things where I'm sort of going, Was it paranormal? Was it not?
Was it?
I
No.
don't know.
And I'm half laughing because, gosh, the days of calling them discos is long gone, hasn't it? Gosh.
Yeah, because with us kids who were just like any kind of flashlight, oh, disco.
Yeah. Roller discos on a Saturday afternoon. Gosh.
Yeah,
Well,
it was fun. It was again, it was a weird night that again really sticks in my mind because I was like, no idea what this is.
yeah.
Anybody in the chat, you probably could answer it 1,000 times. I don't know.
There you go, chat.
Anyone could be the winner.
Challenge chat. Let's see if we've got any theories about that. Fleur, it's another interesting one. Thank you ever so much. Before you go, let's have a dog update. How's he doing?
He's fine. He's actually now 6 months old.
Wow.
He's 6 months old. He's going out. He's telling me when he needs to use the bathroom. He's due to go to his second grooming appointment.
Oh.
So he's doing so good.
How lovely.
He's actually been laying beside me this entire time. And it was like he was listening as well. He likes it. He does like listening to shows. He does like watching television. And if I'm watching a YouTube video, he will watch. But he does like listening to you, definitely.
Oh, good. I have a canine fan.
He does cock his head. Your first canine viewer.
Jolly good. I'll take that. That's wonderful. Fleur, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Right, cheerio.
Take care.
You too. Good night.
Bye.
We're heading over to Steadbot next for something interesting. Here we go. Flashes in the woods. I'm glad it was that sort of a flash. I did wonder what sort of flashing it might be.
Hello.
Good evening or good night even. It's Eerie's Vault. Welcome to the show, Steadbot.
Yes, it's close to the witching hour, isn't it?
Certainly is, yeah.
Hi, Eerie.
How's
yeah.
it
How are you? That caller tonight was amazing.
Oh yes.
He sounded like an extended cut of myself.
Yes, he was putting me in mind of you, I have to say, and the fact that he clearly enjoyed every moment of it. What a wonderful call. I enjoyed that.
Oh, it was brilliant. Really enjoyed listening to every minute of that. Yeah, no, I was really interested in what you were talking about at the beginning. I've recently been watching quite a lot of stuff about is it Virginia incident?
Oh yes, Virginia. If you're Ross Coulthart, you pronounce it as Virginia. I've noticed he says that. Not that I want to talk about accents.
Yeah, I mean James Fox. I saw there's a guy, Area 52. I don't know if you ever watch his channel, and he did an interview with James Fox, and it totally transformed my opinion of him because James Fox, I've always felt, is quite a sensationalist, like a lot of American documentaries about this sort of stuff. But watching that and him talking about like a lot of these things that he's produced, he's ended up having to hand over the rights to them to the people who have effectively had to who funded his documentaries in the first place. So he's not got, he doesn't own the rights to a lot of his documentaries, but now because he's establishing himself, he's trying to buy them back so they can release them for free for people to see them. And that was a small part of a really long interview with him that just made me think, oh, right, that explains so much. And now and like you were saying about what he's been doing with his latest documentary about this particular interview, it's just totally changed my opinion of him.
Very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair play to the guy. I mean, but that incident in particular in Brazil, I mean, it fascinated me when it first came out in '96. I don't remember where I first heard about it. I don't think it was in the news or anything like that. I remember reading it in like a magazine or something somewhere, and I just thought it was really fascinating because I was like, why isn't this all over the news? Because it was like a live alien witnessed by people. And then I think it was like the local military captured the alien. And as you mentioned, the guy who got scratched eventually later died, and they said it was sepsis, or a common bacterial infection is what they said he died of. But obviously there's more to it than that by the sounds of it, because I mean, yes, it happens with things like sepsis and stuff like that, but I mean, surely there'd be more to it. But I mean, James Fox sort of alluded in this interview to the fact that there were doctors who actually did examinations on this creature,
Yes.
and were told, and the whole hospital was basically cordoned off and told to shut up about it, or they'd lose their licenses or whatever. And I don't know if I'm misremembering, but I'm sure there was one of the military sergeants who did try to speak up about it, and in the usual fashion later turned up unalive, shall we say, and was deemed suicidal and all this kind of thing. So it was really interesting. And like you say, in what you mentioned recently about that guy who was, they wanted to interview him because he was one of the few witnesses still alive, but he actually, didn't want to talk about it, as you say.
He certainly didn't. Yeah. Was that Lopes? Was that the other military chap?
Yeah. It was another military guy. Yeah. And because again, they did actually show that clip again on the Area 52's another YouTube channel that I watch, and they showed a bit of that clip where he was trying to talk to him, and they were sort of like, yeah, he's obviously on edge. Let's give him some space.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and he's also got a gun. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and it just makes you wonder, like, to what lengths are whoever's covering these sort of things up are going to cover these up. Do you know what I mean?
What are the threats that they can hold over you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's so many scary stories behind these sort of things. So yeah, I mean, just really, really interesting, and I'm really pleased that he's gone back into this now that we've got better methods, if you like, of reporting on these things, just so that more information can come out about it. Really, I do think it's fascinating.
Sure, and of course the world itself is far more accessible than it was in the 90s. I think that's facilitated a lot of his success as well.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's been Brazil in general seems to be quite a bit. There's a lot that seems to go on over there. Did you hear about the village where there were people reporting lots of attacks? I think that was like in the 70s.
I did. I'll let you tell it, but yes, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I don't know if I can remember the entire details about it, but I think it was basically, it was in the late 70s, and villagers were reporting being attacked by beams of light during the night, and they were literally waking up with puncture marks or burns and things like that, and it was causing all sorts of issues. And I think they were obviously seeing the local village hospital and all that, and she reported it to the local military, and then the military investigated it, and they did find stuff. They saw lights and things like that. There's a bit of sensationalism behind one guy allegedly who was in that group of military people, who alleged that he did actually see an alien, who literally just sort of appeared and disappeared and whatnot and everything. But it's one of those where there's no proof and there's no documentation and all this kind of thing.
As usual.
As always, yeah. So and of course, yeah, they found stuff, but it was all just sort of swept under the rug again, same kind of thing. And the caller you had earlier, he alluded to, because obviously we all know about the things with cattle mutilations and all that kind of things. There was a guy I remember that did actually show up in a news report, who was basically dead, and he was mutilated in the same way as cattle mutilations, where like literally, his entire intestines were removed. Good and God. Various bits of his face were removed, and it seemed like a really violent attack, but it was the same thing, like precise cuts, no blood, all that kind of stuff, and it was just bizarre. But yeah, no, I mean, going back to the Virginia incident, however you want to call it, I remember it being fascinating because of the fact that it wasn't. It was reported by 3 young women who originally found the alien, and it was cowering in the corner, and they said it smelled bad and all that kind of thing, and it was just one of those witness accounts that really struck me.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that you get to see their testimony again as adults, and
yes.
you can just see it in the faces, I think. that it definitely affected her. And of course, the mother, speaking of being offered big sums of cash to shut up about it, and she says, "No, I will not.
Absolutely.
My daughters are not liars," and all of this. It's such an enormous event that just happened in this tiny little area to these few people that we might never have known about. It's crazy.
No, absolutely. It's almost as if it needed to happen somewhere really rural and less developed, in order for the truth to come out, if you know what I mean. It's almost as if people in an established society, like I don't know if do you remember the one it was Africa, where there was a school and loads of kids saw Ariel, and loads of kids witnessed it and everything. And then teachers were approached afterwards and said, look, you need to tell the kids to shut up, you need to shut up, otherwise there's going to be something that'll come up in the news and say you've been drinking, and by the way, you're going to lose your job.
That's right.
And when you're in established society, that is more valuable to you about losing your job and your livelihood and things like that. So they knew exactly what to say to threaten that person to shut him up. Whereas somewhere like this Virginia incident, you've got people who are much more grounded in their personal morality over any, you can't threaten them with their job or money and things like that. It just doesn't have the same effect. And it's almost as if these people who tried to shut them up didn't realize that. Do you know what I mean? That kind of.
I mean, it took essentially a death threat to the first witness for him to get the idea that he wasn't wanted there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost as if that's what they do. They try to find the thing that they believe will hurt you most because that's easier than making you disappear, kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's scary to think about. And I mean, going a little bit deeper into that, it makes me wonder because if there is such a little value in human life over keeping this thing a secret, what is it about? Is it because, you mentioned in your original article about the banks now considering, we need to put some contingency plan in if aliens are suddenly, deemed as existing, it's going to crash the market, all that kind of stuff. It's going to devalue society. And is that what it is? Is it people protecting money and investment? I mean, you hear about these cover-ups over energy, the idea about finding energy sources that are cheap and effective and things like that, and protecting the big six. Is it really just about money, or is it actually because let's theorize, I'm not going to say this is true, but let's imagine that there is an alien race that is dictating to our government what they can and can't do. Are they basically the people who are ensuring that these people are coming out and covering everything up and making sure, because they might not consider us to be as worthwhile as a life form to care about whether or not they threaten us?
They may indeed not, but I heard an interesting counter to that a couple of days ago, which was this theory that there might be a contract of sorts between an alien race and Earth governments, some sort of contract that says, we will allow you to take and experiment on humans in return for not destroying us. But this person said, well, that's great, but who wrote the contract and what language is it in?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I heard something similar, but it was more along the lines of they went into an agreement about, yes, they'll give us technology in exchange for allowing them to kidnap members of our citizens, but there wasn't a disclosure over the amount of people that would be kidnapped or to the extent of what they would be experimented upon and all that kind of thing. So it's almost like as if the government are now covering their own rear ends because of the fact that, they agreed this thing, but it turns out they're not actually getting much in terms of technology from the aliens, but they're doing a hell of a lot more to us than that they thought they were going to do. And now it's a case of, hang on, we can't admit that we did this because the public are going to go absolutely nuts at us for agreeing to this.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's an overthrow situation. But that phrase there, they're doing a lot more than we permitted them to do. There's a phrase in the video that's going to come out on Tuesday, which is a bit of a spoiler, but a young lad who is repeatedly abducted, let's say, by these greys. They're described as greys, essentially. who
Yeah, yeah.
who say to the child, humans are doing much worse things to us than we are doing to them.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting phrase. I mean, I watched a lot of TV programs about all this kind of stuff, and I think there's two parts of this that spring to mind for me. There was one where a guy who remote viewed and was able to communicate with an alien, allegedly. Again, we'll have to sort of take this with a grain of
Oh
salt,
yes,
but
yeah,
let's believe he actually did this and had this conversation, and he actually said to the alien, why do you come to Earth? What's your interest in us? And the alien's response was, well, no, we don't. We're not interested in you. And this, worried him. He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, we see humans in the same way as you might see birds. Most people don't really give two hoots about birds, but actually, some of us find you fascinating, but some of us wouldn't care. And just as the way as I would be the kind of person that would feed birds in my garden,
yeah,
whereas someone else wouldn't think twice about shooting a bird for
yes,
the fun of
yes,
it. Do you know what
yeah.
I mean? It's the same analogy. And I had a second one, but it's just totally left my head now because that one was so interesting to me.
It's
We talking about the you were talking about the kid who said about the
yes. He said that the aliens told him that humans were doing worse things to them than
yes,
they were doing
thank
to
you. Yeah.
humans. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. You reignited those cells now in my brain. So it was basically about the fact that actually there are some aliens that don't they come across to us as if they say, "Oh yes, we care about the Earth," and some of the abductees misinterpret that as in they care about humans, but
Mm.
actually they don't care about humans. They care about what humans are doing to the Earth. And this is all that business about the fact that there seems to be an awful lot more of sightings, and the Roswell thing all appears to have happened since we've been able to
Nuclear
weaponize
power. Yeah.
nuclear power. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it all stems. Here we go. I'm digressing again. I wanted to talk about Virginia, but it's one of those, isn't it? The rabbit hole is a
Well,
warren.
yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, I'm gonna put an image up on screen whilst we're talking. My earlier comparison, which was the Virginia being, and
Yes.
Dale Gribble
This
from
is
King of the
Eerie's
Hill.
Vault Live, and I am your host, Leon.
Which, if I'm pressing all the wrong buttons here. Oh, was it on?
That image was exactly the one that I saw in the magazine where I first read that article, and that was the first. And I remember reading about it because the girls described him as like small. He had 3 little bumps on his head, like horns, and he had red eyes and he had oily skin.
Yes.
And that was the description I recall when he was crouched by the wall.
Yeah.
And again, this is all detail. We were going back to about how genuine they sounded in their interviews. These are details that do you know what I mean? Kids don't just make that up. Do you know what I mean? Oh, he had oily skin. How many kids making up a story would think to include that kind of description? And,
yeah, it's not canon, is it?
No, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, he had big red eyes. It was really scary. That's a typical description. But to go to the level of saying he was crouched in the corner, it was small, he had oily skin that looked slimy, and it was scary, and and even they described their reactions. It's such a natural. It feels too normal to have been made up. You know what I mean?
It does to me, and the fact that they surmised that it was actually suffering because of the sunlight directly on it was another thing. It seemed to be suffering in the sun, is what one of the girls said.
Yeah. I remember a detail they were saying that it was suffering. I didn't realize it was because of the sun. I don't remember that detail, but yeah, no, and again, you're absolutely right. It was like as if I remember the description that they said that it was suffering somehow. But yeah, no, that is interesting. Again, so if it was a UFO and if it was an alien on that UFO and it crashed, I mean, let's assume, take it to the next level. What was the creature thinking? How did it think?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you mentioned about the guy who got the scratch and died later of the infection, and it was an accident. It wasn't like the alien was trying to attack him. Anybody who's tried to manhandle a cat, you know what I mean? If
Oh,
you're trying
yeah.
to give a cat medicine, you know exactly what that's like. And I
You're
bet
getting
that's exactly what it
scratched.
was like trying to capture, trying to catch this creature.
Yeah.
You know, it's that thing. You're trying to help it. It doesn't know that. It thinks you're trying to capture it, and there's wrestling going on. So, of course, you can see there's an accident going to happen there. I mean, heaven knows my cat and I fell out many a times trying to give it meds.
Yeah. I think there were 3 creatures, I believe, in total.
Were the others deceased then or whatnot? I remember reading an awful lot about the one, but I don't know about the other 2. You're right. I do know there were 3, but I don't know what happened about the other 2.
And I can't
A
remember
lot
now.
of focus. Yeah, a lot of the focus was on the one that was alive, that was captured. It was taken to a hospital. I mean, James Fox even mentioned in the interview that I saw that one of the doctors even did a procedure on the creature. They were very specific about the words procedure because they didn't say exactly what he did for him. Whether it was injured or whatnot, I don't know, or whether they perceived that they could do anything for him. And that's another thing that's interesting. I mean, if he was so infectious with the scratch on this one guy, no one else seemed to have been affected by contact with this creature.
And why would a human doctor assume that they would know anything about the physiology of such a being in order to be able to help it in the first place?
Yeah, when the army turned up with it, it's like, you don't need me, you need a vet.
Well, yeah. What an assumption! But that one of those doctors described the being, and it brings him to tears when he says it. He describes the being as angelic.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier in the article. Again, that was not something that I read in the original things, and I've not seen the new documentary. I did watch, as I say, I saw an interview with James Fox talking about making this new documentary. So I'll have to watch that, and about the idea about it being angelic, because that's a far cry from this description of a small being with horns, red eyes, and oily skin.
Yeah.
I'd struggle to see how that's angelic.
It's really different.
Then again, I mean, there's been other witnesses. There's a guy, I can't think of his name there. It might be John Stone or something like that. He's ex-military. He says he used to work in the military, and he used to be sent to crash retrievals, and he was even a party to actually helping one of them escape. And he got into trouble for it, obviously. But he was so emotional when he was talking about it. It was like that sort of. He talked about it almost like an angelic being, in the sense of it was so kind, it was so loving, I just had to help it, that kind of thing. So if this doctor thought it was angelic and it looked like the description that we're seeing, did it have some sort of influence on him mentally to make him think it was angelic?
Yes.
I mean, there's the business with what's that guy, Travis Walton, is it, the guy who was
Fire in the Sky chap?
Yeah, Fire in the Sky. In his interviews now, he talks about there's a period where the aliens basically had him on the table. He was terrified. He reacted. So they all left the room, and then he thought help was coming for him, and it turned out that actually it was the aliens coming back, but giving a personification as if they were more human, to fool him into thinking help was coming, just so that he would be more relaxed.
Gosh.
And I'm just wondering if that was the same type of thing, whether there's some sort of influence that they can have that makes you think something is nicer than it is. And then I start thinking about things like the Book of Mormon. You know what I mean? He said, an angelic figure appeared and told him how to write this book about how to be nice to each other, almost like a brand new religion again, which is not too different from the values of any other religion. Do you know what I mean? It's all be nice to each other and all that kind of stuff. The difference being is saying that, this book has come from an alien civilization. But again, was it really an angelic being that influenced the guy who wrote it, or was it something that made him think it was angelic?
And then we're
interesting
back.
stuff. As always,
it is.
And we're back,
and we're back to Valet again there with his one intelligence wearing many faces. I'm reading it again
Yeah.
actually at the minute because some of it I didn't quite sink in, but that's the gist of it, isn't it? One intelligence
Yeah.
wearing many faces. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Odd that
Uh,
it's tridactyl, this Virginia thing. Odd that it was 3 fingers and 3 toes.
Well, I mean, yeah, odd, or is it actually because it's part of the same thing? You know, is it not odd? Is it actually less unusual that all these encounters are all tridactyl? You know, they're all 3-fingered. I've seen other descriptions from abductees who all talk about them having 3 fingers.
Yeah.
And an interesting detail as well is they all talk about them having very knobbly ends on the ends of their fingers, not like fingernails with flat fingers like we have, but almost like rounded ends, like knobbly
Oh,
finger ends,
okay. Like
fingertips.
pads almost. Yeah.
Um, yeah, pads. Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's a detail. It's not something that you would think somebody making something up would go to the length of describing, but it's something that if you observed it, it would shock you. You'd be like, oh, well, those are weird fingers. They got knobbly bits on the end. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's something that sticks in the mind of somebody recording something, not somebody making something up.
Sure.
Yeah, and again, like you say, you know, I'm not sure about that it's an oddity. I'm thinking more it's actually a relational thing between the different events. It could well be that they are related to those creatures we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
The tridactyl
the mummies.
mummies.
And All Colours Sam had well, he had a 3-fingered glove in where his hand was. We don't know what the hand looked like, but apparently the feet
Yeah.
and hands of All Colours Sam were also tridactyl as well.
Yeah, 3 fingers again. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean that's a fascinating biological thing as well, because I mean obviously we have everything like mammalian all seems to have the thumb and 4 fingers
It's
as far as we
pentadactyl,
know.
that's right, yeah.
Yeah. It's so if all these different things are tridactyl, are they related in the same way as we're related to mammals? You know, it could be that they are all different species of aliens, but they're all related to wherever it is that they come from, whether it be multidimensional, as previously mentioned, or from another another planet, or interstellar or interdimensional. Those are the 2 possibilities, aren't they?
That's it, really, yeah. Or made up, but they can't be made up.
Or,
They can't be.
I don't know an inter word that means made up.
into truthful, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Oh, the Colares attacks.
That's the one.
That was what it was called.
That's the one.
That was the one in the 70s. Yeah,
Little-
and that was fascinating. Again, see the physical evidence.
Yeah, scars,
People being
injuries.
burned in strange.
Little silver balls flying around, shooting people with laser beams. I mean, that's what they were reporting.
That's right. Yeah. Through the roofs of their houses as well.
Yeah, gosh.
And again, it was a sort of low-tech village that was being attacked. It wasn't like a city or whatnot. You know,
for what gain?
It's
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Why?
Yeah, like a hunt. It sounds like a hunt, doesn't it?
Almost. Yeah. I mean, you know, I suppose that's the thing that we don't know is the why behind it, really. I mean, and it's the level of it. It's between, you know, cow mutilations where they're coming back with missing body parts and dead, and then you have people who are being taken away, but actually they're having, you know, small injections and samples removed delicately, and then being put back where they were. That kind of, you know, it's a strange mixture. Now, is that a mixture because there are different beings with different agendas, or is that different because, again, like I was saying, you know, are they all the same beings, but actually some of them care about what they do to the humans and some of them don't. You know, my favorite analogy along that one was there's a guy, the guy who wrote the books about the tall whites, who used to work on the Nellis Air Force Base.
Yes.
And he had a lot of exposure with them, and he practically interacted with them on a daily basis. And there was a particular alien there called Range 4 Harry, I think he mentioned in his books. And what the best analogy he came up with about like the fact that when they come near us. It was sort of like it was that sort of why are they so standoffish with us, or why don't they reveal themselves to us, or when they do, they seem to have a means of controlling us and things like that. And his analogy was like, well, you wouldn't climb into a cage with a gorilla without a gun, would you? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I suppose that's
You
right.
know,
Yeah.
and if we are a giant planet which is nothing more than a zoo, if you're going to land in that zoo, you wouldn't go down there unequipped with the ability to either, just like when we take animals in the wild, we tranquilize them and then we measure them or do whatever with them, and then
you
leave
don't
them
look.
and then let
There's
them
some of
recover.
them you don't look them in the eye because it'll trigger them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was Bigfoot.
Oh, go on.
Do
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods. Have you heard of that YouTube channel?
Oh, is it a chap in a hat and he walks along?
Yes,
Yes, I've
yeah, and he
seen him,
walks
and
along and chats.
yeah, I've seen him. Yeah.
Brilliant. I saw an interview recently, and he was talking about a story about some guys who went on a fishing and hunting trip, and they got surrounded by a bunch of Sasquatch, sorry, and they thought they felt like they were being hunted. And he said he had his cousin was there who was reduced to a quivering wreck, and it was literally just because of the fact that he locked eyes with a Bigfoot through the window of this cabin they were hiding in.
God, just kicked it off.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and one of the highlights of that, he says I saw his teeth. He was smiling at me, and that was an interesting point that they raised about that, because like obviously with apes and things like that, there's certain animals, if they're showing you their teeth, it's aggression.
Yeah, that ain't smiling.
Chimpanzees showing the smile, like in a dog, it's showing, when it pulls its teeth back, its gums back, sorry, its lips back, and you can see its teeth.
Yeah.
That means business. You back off. But a chimpanzee, they show their teeth when they're in fear. It's like a big smile, but it's actually a fear symbol. And again, it's potential sort of like, well, I'll back away from that because he's showing his teeth. But for us, a smile is a friendly gesture. And it's that sort of different interpretations of different things that go on and whatnot and everything. And again, how does that work between extraterrestrials and us?
Yeah. And how can you have a shared language? We were talking earlier about English proliferating around the globe, and then of course the language of emoji. Well,
yeah.
What's the next communication that would perhaps allow us to all communicate, on a level playing field, as it were?
That's another interesting topic. I mean, stop me if I'm boring everybody. I'm conscious that the last call went on quite a long time, and I don't know where I heard it, but there was something, and it was a discussion about telepathy and the fact that obviously we don't have it. But it was a case of like one of the biggest reasons we have conflict around the world is because we don't know what the other person's thinking or how they're thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a fascinating video from a guy who was in Afghanistan. He worked in the military, and he was actually like a relations officer. And it was so fascinating to listen to him talk, because he was talking about Islam and talking about obviously American soldiers being over there, and talking about how like Westerners it's so different, it's crazy and all this sort of thing and that. But actually, when you're over there and you're raised in that culture, it seems perfectly logical.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Christianity or Western culture is just nuts. If you're and it's the same thing between these other cultures and things like that. It's
cultural relativism. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and that brings us back to the communication part of it. But the point I was getting to was that if we were all psychic and could read each other's minds, there's no such thing as secrets.
That's true. Yeah.
And
no more surprise birthday parties or anything like that.
Exactly. And I mean, go beyond that. I mean, when you talk about governments and military industrial complex, and you talk about global conflict, there's no secrets between Russia, China, USA, Europe. Imagine if everybody could read everybody else's mind. Would that be good? Would that be bad? I think almost what's happened now is that we've gotten ourselves into such a rut that if everybody could suddenly read everybody else's mind, there would be absolute chaos.
Oh,
It'd be uproar.
yeah, it'd be chaos.
You know,
The first thing would be to use it to your own advantage, wouldn't it?
Yeah, every individual would want to use it to their own advantage.
Yeah.
But worse than that, you'll have like the Second World War. After that all ended, there was all the trials about the Nazis. After that, it will be the same thing again. There'll be
Yes.
people being brought to trial
Yeah.
for stuff that they did, because back then they thought they were doing it in the interests of their country, or or even in the interests of the world. In this deal we talked about before about with aliens, when they thought, oh yeah, well, we'll get technology, they're just going to do a few, they're only going to take sperm samples and egg samples, it's all right, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then everyone else will find out about that and be totally offended by it all. How dare you make us victims just so you could have a few extra guns?
Gosh,
Yeah,
can you
so,
imagine?
yeah.
Can you imagine if this entire thing is simply a result of the war economy? How terrible!
Oh god, yeah, and it's just it's crazy, and again, that would destroy banking and economy and all that sort of thing.
Oh god, yeah.
There's no point in secrets. Everybody could have access to all of the same technology, all that kind of thing. I've got to be careful here because I'll be accused of being socialist or something like that. But
Well, at the very least, Star Trekist, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we just took the blue pill and saw how deep the rabbit hole could go.
Yeah, the outcomes are, well, incalculable, aren't they? But it's
Yeah.
hopefully utopian outcomes eventually. But what a period of turmoil there would be. I mean, disclosure would do that anyway. I think it would finish some people off.
And it's I wonder if that's going to come in our lifetime.
God,
I'd
I
really
hope so.
like it to, but
Yeah.
I really want it to, but I just fear that it's not going to. I don't know. It's like I saw an amazing phrase on the internet literally this week, and it was like the safest place to be right now is with the Epstein files.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because nobody is going to know where you are.
Nobody's getting into those.
No, yeah, that's it. Nobody's going to get that.
Good Lord.
Oh, so it's just and that's it's I'd love it, but it's a wonder if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's one of those. Anyway, I'll unless there's any more you'd like me to talk about, I'm happy to go off so someone else can have a chat, because always a fan. Brilliant show.
Awesome.
As ever.
Yeah.
Love it. Love your little programs as well that you release every now and then. It's really good. Keep up the good work, mate.
Another
really
one on Tuesday. Get ready for it. Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Smashing.
As always.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Steadbot, for the call. Awesome. We're getting close to the end. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care.
Cheerio.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
So we're into the last 10 minutes of the extended show. Gosh, that's gone fast, hasn't it? So I've got two people queued up here. I have an account to share of an eyewitness account I fell upon concerning the appearance of a phantom doorway. If that's yours, I'm going to call you now. So stand by your beds. And then, John, let's have Bigfoot theories from you as the caller after that, if that's all right with you. They've been queuing up. Here we go. This is the tense bit where you don't know if they've gone to bed or not. It's a not. Hello there. Welcome to Eerie's Vault Live. Oh, I'm unable to hear you, caller, unfortunately. And I know it's not me this time. Sorry, there's no sound. I'm going to just... There we go. That call's just dropped off. Not sure what that was. John, we're coming to you. Let's have your Bigfoot theories. And then we'll try that again.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. How is it going?
Not bad, mate. And yourself?
Yeah, getting tired now. Hit me with some Bigfoot theories.
Right. Basically, to tie in with your last two callers, like yourself, I'm subscribed to lots and lots and lots of different channels on YouTube. But I really like the fact that Oh. Oh, right. Should we start again, or am I live now?
Oh, you're live now. You might just have to extinguish the device, as it were.
Okay, you have to do that now.
Quite a delay
Okay.
tonight, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'll start again. Yeah, where to start? There's so many theories about Bigfoot. I don't believe at all that they're Gigantopithecus. That's just an absolute ridiculous theory. I believe that they are an archaic human hominid. Basically, that's what I think.
Yeah,
And if they're
a
not
relict
that,
thing. Yeah.
a relic hominid. Yeah. What do you think on that?
I have come to that conclusion myself, that they most likely are a type of people.
Yeah,
Yes.
I really think they are. But there is an alternative theory that goes against that grain, which, if you know everything about mind speak
Yes, and
and the
oh gosh,
footsteps that suddenly disappear.
what's that chap's name? There's one chap in particular. Is it Lapsaritis?
Yeah.
Kiwani Lapsaritis, who does all the psychic Sasquatch stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And have you watched Ontario Sasquatch? That's another one.
I have a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many of them. It's hard to keep tabs of them. But there is a sort of like chapter of that church that believes that they're either interdimensional, right?
Yeah.
Which ties in with the last caller Steadbot about time and space and so on. I think there is something of them that is of time and space, but I also think they're definitely a relic hominid, in so much that Dr. is it Ketchum?
Yes, Melba Ketchum, yeah.
Yeah, the DNA study. It's fascinating that the mitochondrial DNA, from the mother side, always comes out as being human, and that human DNA always originates from the Middle East.
So are we talking about some, where you say they may be human and other dimensional, as it were? Are we talking about a shamanic people, do we think?
Both, yeah, but it goes way bigger than that. Well done for bringing that up, because if you go on, let's say, an archaeologist's point of view, a scientist's point of view, firstly the nuclear DNA from the father always comes up as being a hominid unknown.
Yes.
Whereas the mitochondrial DNA from the mother always comes up as being female. This is very important. Middle Eastern. Okay. Yeah. And this is where I think the two tie together, because the scientists want to put labels on things and put things in compartments. Hence why you got that famous chap with a big beard, and he believes that it's Gigantopithecus. I can't think of his name. My short temperament is lousy.
Grover Krantz thought it was Gigantopithecus, didn't he?
Yeah. Because they like to put things in compartments, and try things neatly. But as with a lot of things that are either cryptid or spiritual or just plain weird, that's why they're cryptids. That's why they're where they are, because no one's found enough evidence to find a neat, tidy name or compartment to stick them in.
Yeah, that's right.
This is why Bigfoot and Sasquatch fascinate me so much. Yeah. So going back to my theory is that yes, they are a relic hominid, right? And people say, well, why aren't there any bones? Why isn't there this? Why isn't there that evidence?
Yeah.
But there's only one. I don't really particularly like the guy. I think he's a bit. Well, I won't say what I think he is, but How to Hunt.
Oh yes,
yeah. As he would say, I mean, he makes his business from going out hunting and taking people on trips, and hunting and so on, as he would tell you, you can go into the wilds of any, of Canada or any North American national park, and you try finding the bones of a bear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They disappear.
Yeah.
The mice, the vermin, the whatever, all the little animals, the acidity of the soil, it eats it. It's gone.
Yeah.
But there have been giants across North America, whether they're in mounds, whether they're meant to be of the Clovis people or of the 10,000-year-old not bronze, but they copper age people that they didn't know existed until recently. There have always been 10-foot, 8-foot, 10-foot, 12-foot giants found.
Yeah.
The skeletons are wrong. So you tie all the evidence together, I really believe they are a relic hominid, okay? But because of the mitochondrial DNA always being female, always being of Middle Eastern origin, you combine that with the fact that whether it's Siberia, they're called Almas.
That's right, yeah. Caucasus.
Or Almaty in that part of the world. Whether it's from there, whether it's whatever indigenous tribe of North America on the Northwest Pacific coast, and there's hundreds of names. Every tribe has got a different name for it, which is fascinating in itself.
Yes.
Because it lends concrete. It makes the validity of the creature being real if they've been about so long. And you've got the pictographs that your first caller was referring to, okay? So you add all these things together. There's the modern thing that, because now it's accepted that, there is a cryptid. It's no longer a boogeyman. It's no longer fiction. It's a cryptid. Or it's a real thing. It's been seen so many times. But the evidence is that too many people, whether it's in Ukraine, where the Almas is, there's a famous one. Have you seen that where it's jumping through the woods, running away from a sun?
Yeah, it's got real big arms, hasn't it? It sort of hops along. Yeah.
It's like a giant chimpanzee, and the way it leaps across the ground, But there's all these similarities all across the world, whether it's Australian Yowie or whatever. And they speak of things like, I've had a couple of experiences where I've had mind speak, and I've had experiences where Roughy Tufty me, I used to love a scrap, love a drink, work on the building, where for no conceivable reason whatsoever, from nothing, for no reason at all, literally horrified, shocked, terrified, absolutely scared witless. So you've got the mind speak.
Yes.
You've got the footprints that disappear. You've got the interdimensional aspect of them. Okay, it tells you one thing. You've heard of the Nephilim?
Yes.
And the Anunnaki?
Yeah.
That started the world religions in Sumeria as God, when I was chatting with one of the chaps on the chat earlier, please excuse me for getting his name because I'm all of a muddle recently. So basically, you tie them all up together. What it tells me is, if the Anunnaki started all religions, and if the Nephilim enjoyed mating with the women of Earth, which is now an accepted thing by, was it Paul Wallace? Have you ever heard of him?
No, I've not heard that name.
No, Paul Wallace, nothing to do with Sasquatch. He's an Australian Anglican priest. I can't remember his title. He had access to the archives in the Vatican. He's been all around the world. He's privy to all sorts of things, whether it's, what are they called now? Damon Omion, what do they call them now? Exorcists.
Oh, yes.
Exorcists, Vatican vaults, you name it. He's got access to everything. the Ethiopian church. He's been there, done it all, but he's given up religion. He's given up religion because he loves connecting the dots and tracing things back to their origins. And he's the one that turned me on to the Sumerians and the hypocrisy of religion and the origins of all religion.
So in a nutshell, then we're going to have to wrap up.
Okay.
In a nutshell, the origin of Sasquatch
Bigfoot
then is
Sasquatch. Yeah. So in a nutshell, Bigfoot and Sasquatch are the Nephilim.
There you go.
That's why they're spiritual, and that's why their DNA is relic hominin or hominin unknown, and female human. There you go.
There we go, John. It's a great theory. It's a great one to leave the show with. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Thank you. Great show, and everyone on air are brilliant people. Keep up the good work, Mr. Eerie.
Yeah.
And God bless you.
Thank you very much. See you, John. Thank you.
Cheers, Liam.
Cheerio.
Bye, mate.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's the end of the extended show. If I didn't get to you, I'm very sorry, but it is my bedtime now. The caller who wants to talk about the phantom doorway, please do try again on the next show, which will be in 2 weeks' time, which is the Friday the 13th of February, actually. I'll see you all then. Thank you ever so much, and good night.